Emily Johnson, 7 months pregnant, was supposed to be safe in a New York hospital. But safety turned into terror the moment her husband, Michael Carter, and his mistress, Lisa Monroe, entered her room. What followed was a shocking act of violence that put both mother and unborn child in immediate danger. This is the story of betrayal, survival, and a father's relentless fight for justice. Emily Johnson clutched her lower abdomen as the sharp, unrelenting pain surged through her body, forcing her to bend forward against the seat of her car. The streets of New York seemed unusually harsh that night, the yellow streetlights casting long shadows across the wet pavement, reflecting off puddles left by an earlier rain. Every red light felt like a lifetime as she fought to steady her breathing, each wave of pain reminding her that this pregnancy, already complicated, could take a dangerous turn in a matter of minutes. She fumbled for her phone with trembling fingers and called the hospital's emergency line, her voice shaky but urgent, explaining that she was 7 months pregnant and experiencing sudden, severe abdominal pain. The dispatcher instructed her to remain calm, drive carefully, and promised that medical staff would be ready when she arrived. Emily's hands gripped the steering wheel tighter than necessary, knuckles whitening as the car shuddered over small potholes. She had navigated the city many times, but tonight every turn and stop felt amplified by fear and anticipation. The thought of her unborn child, so vulnerable inside her, pushed her forward with a fierce determination that overrode the fatigue and nausea threatening to overwhelm her. By the time she pulled into the emergency entrance of New York Medical Center, Emily's breath came in short, shallow gasps. The sliding doors opened before she could press the call button again, revealing the bright interior of the hospital lobby. Nurses and staff moved briskly, some wheeling equipment, others guiding arriving patients, but all seemed to notice her condition immediately. A nurse in green scrubs hurried toward her, offering steady support as Emily was assisted out of her car and onto a wheelchair. Each step was measured, deliberate, with the hospital floor cool beneath her feet, contrasting sharply with the heat radiating through her body. Emily tried to reassure herself as she was wheeled through the maze of corridors, the rhythmic beeping of monitors and distant voices from other emergency rooms blending into a background hum. She kept her hands pressed against her stomach, a subconscious act of protection, as if her touch alone could shield the fragile life inside her from harm. Nurses spoke to her in calm, reassuring tones, explaining the process, the examination, and the importance of remaining still. Their words were professional, yet laced with a warmth that allowed Emily to cling to some sense of control in the chaotic world around her. Once she was settled onto the hospital bed, the attending physician, Dr. Oliver Lane, performed a careful examination, his hands gentle but efficient, measuring vitals, assessing her condition, and observing her reactions. He explained that while her pregnancy was still stable, the intensity of her pain indicated that her body was under severe stress. Any sudden movement, emotional agitation, or physical shock could put both Emily and her unborn child at risk. He emphasized the need for absolute rest and continuous monitoring, outlining procedures that would be followed throughout the night. Emily listened intently, nodding as she absorbed every word. She trusted the environment and the people around her, believing that this was a place meant for healing and protection. Even with the tension that had grown in her personal life, Emily expected that the hospital would offer her at least a temporary shield from the outside world, a place where her concerns were valid, and her well-being prioritized above all else. She laid back on the bed, her hands resting protectively on her stomach, taking shallow, careful breaths as she attempted to manage both the physical pain and the anxiety gnawing at the edges of her mind. The machines nearby recorded each heartbeat, each fluctuation, a constant reminder of the delicate balance she carried inside her. The rhythmic monitor reassured her in moments, when her thoughts threatened to spiral. But even the steady beep could not fully quiet the storm of worry that hovered behind her eyes. She thought of her child, the life growing inside, and let that thought anchor her amidst the uncertainty. Outside the room, the corridors of the hospital continued in their usual rhythm, doctors and nurses moving with purpose, answering calls, attending to emergencies, and preparing for the unpredictable. Emily's condition, while urgent, was met with the controlled efficiency that the staff had honed over countless nights like this one. Every step, every word, Every gesture was calculated to preserve safety while minimizing additional stress. Emily remained still, placing her faith in their expertise, and allowed herself to momentarily drift between awareness and discomfort. She was aware of the tension coiling in her own body, the way her muscles tightened instinctively in response to the pain. Yet she forced herself to relax into the bed, imagining that every breath she took could offer protection for her unborn child. In these moments, she thought of her family, of her father Robert Johnson, whose presence would always bring her reassurance, and she silently wished that he could somehow know she was being taken care of, that she was safe. Minutes stretched, with each tick of the clock amplifying her heightened awareness of her body's signals. A sudden jolt, the sensation of movement outside the room, pulled her from this fragile sense of security. Emily's thoughts snapped to alertness as the door opened abruptly, revealing figures who did not belong in this sanctuary. Her pulse quickened, a mix of fear and recognition washing over her. Michael Carter, her husband, stood in the doorway, his expression unreadable, eyes lacking concern, and beside him was Lisa Monroe, whose confident posture and calculated gaze sent a wave of dread through Emily. The room that moments before felt like a protective bubble transformed instantly into a space of threat. Emily's instincts, sharpened by months of stress and the need to protect her unborn child, urged her to brace herself, to resist, to prepare for what she could not yet name. Her hands instinctively returned to her stomach, her nails pressing lightly against the fabric of her gown, as if that alone could defend her. She attempted to speak, her voice weak but determined, asking why Lisa was present, pleading for them to leave, hoping her words could ward off the looming danger. Michael's face hardened as he responded with irritation rather than concern, his words sharp, dismissing her pain and framing her condition as an inconvenience. Lisa's gaze followed, her smirk deliberate, her voice dripping with disdain as she suggested Emily was exaggerating, that the pregnancy had become a performance. Emily tried to push herself upright, ignoring the sudden flare of pain, but the effort left her trembling, vulnerable, and gasping for air. Each motion was a negotiation between her body's limitations and her instinctual need to survive. The air in the room thickened, charged with aggression and looming violence, until Michael's sudden, explosive anger manifested physically, sending the bed rattling violently and throwing Emily to the floor. Pain erupted through her body in waves, compounded by fear that this fall could endanger her baby. In these moments, Emily's mind focused solely on the life inside her, her awareness narrowing to each sharp contraction, each heartbeat picked up by the nearby monitor. The people around her, the supposed protectors of life and health, became sources of immediate danger, and her trust shattered in an instant. The emergency had arrived unannounced, and with it, a reckoning that would call forth the courage of those willing to act. The moment Michael Carter stepped into Emily's hospital room, the air shifted, dense and charged, as if every molecule had aligned to signal danger. He did not greet her, did not ask how she felt, and the warmth that a husband should have carried into a room where his wife and unborn child were vulnerable was entirely absent. Behind him, Lisa Monroe moved with calculated confidence, her presence an intrusion as sharp as a knife against the sterile backdrop of the hospital. Emily's heart raced, each beat magnified by the throbbing in her abdomen, and her mind scrambled for clarity in a space that had once felt protective. She instinctively tried to sit upright, but the pain and exhaustion coiled around her like an unyielding vice, forcing her hands over her stomach as a shield. Her voice, fragile yet resolute, cut through the tension as she asked why Lisa was there, and pleaded with Michael to leave. She spoke of the doctor's warnings, of the fragile life inside her, hoping to awaken some shred of reason or empathy. Michael's response was immediate, sharp, and devoid of concern. His voice carried accusation and contempt, blaming Emily for creating drama and insinuating that she had exaggerated her pain to manipulate him. Each word was deliberate, designed to wound and dominate, leaving no room for negotiation or empathy. Lisa stepped closer, her eyes glinting with a mixture of disdain and satisfaction, as if she were observing a display of helplessness meant to amuse her. Emily's body trembled, every muscle screaming against the dual weight of physical pain and emotional terror. The room, once a sanctuary, had transformed into a battlefield, with Emily trapped in the epicenter. She tried to push herself against the mattress, her trembling hands gripping the rails for support, but the effort left her breathless and weak. The fear was tangible, pressing down on her chest, and the thought of the unborn child she carried made every second unbearable. Then, in a sudden eruption of rage, Michael lashed out. His foot connected with the side of the hospital bed, sending a violent tremor through the frame. The impact jarred Emily's body violently, knocking her from the mattress and onto the cold, unforgiving floor. Pain flared through her abdomen in a searing wave, her scream echoing off the walls and piercing the controlled environment of the hospital. Every instinct screamed at her to curl protectively around her stomach, to shield the fragile life inside her from harm. Before she could gather herself, Lisa moved forward, pressing her weight down to hold Emily in place, preventing any chance of movement or escape. The tiles were hard against Emily's skin, icy and unyielding, amplifying the shock of the fall. She clutched her abdomen, crying out, the sound raw and desperate, reverberating in the sterile room as if seeking a force capable of intervening. At that moment, the fetal monitor emitted a harsh, urgent alarm, the high-pitched tone slicing through the room and cutting through the chaos. The rhythmic, reassuring beeps that had previously offered Emily a fragile sense of security were replaced by an insistent warning: the baby was in distress. The alarm's urgency drew attention from beyond the room, and the impact of the violence became immediately apparent to anyone trained to recognize danger. Nurse Anna Thompson, who had been tending nearby patients, heard the alarm and moved swiftly, her body propelled by experience and instinct. She reached the room in moments, assessing the scene with precision, noting Emily's position on the floor, the visible injuries, and the clear signs of trauma. Her first action was to attend to Emily, speaking softly and calmly, offering reassurance while taking in the full scope of the situation. The tension in the room intensified as Michael and Lisa remained largely still, unaware that their actions had already triggered a chain of responses that would not be ignored. Anna quickly checked Emily's vitals and listened to the fetal monitor, noting the irregularities in heart rate that confirmed her worst fears. Immediate intervention was necessary. She instructed Michael and Lisa to step back, but Michael's posture was defensive, his expression one of irritation rather than concern. He began to construct a narrative, rehearsed and strategic, claiming Emily had lost her balance, that there had been no confrontation, no interference, only an unfortunate accident. Lisa mirrored his composure, standing slightly back, attempting to appear uninvolved while her gaze darted subtly to Emily, as though gauging the reaction to the chaos she had helped create. Anna ignored the narratives, focusing entirely on Emily and the baby, knowing that every second could make a difference. Emily's mind was consumed by fear and pain, her senses acutely aware of every movement, every sound, every shift in the room. She tried to convey the urgency to Michael, pleading for acknowledgement of her condition, but her words were met with impatience and annoyance. Michael's voice rose again, sharp with accusation, dismissing her as emotionally unstable and exaggerating the severity of her symptoms. Lisa's presence only reinforced the threat, her subtle gestures and smirks amplifying Emily's terror. Emily's entire body recoiled instinctively, muscles tensed, her breathing uneven as waves of pain hit unpredictably. She focused solely on the life she carried, the child dependent on her for protection, and prayed that someone would intervene before irreversible damage occurred. Meanwhile, outside the room, Robert Johnson, Emily's father, received a call from Anna explaining the critical situation. Fear surged through him as he realized the gravity of the danger, the vulnerability of his daughter, and the immediacy of the threat posed by her husband and his accomplice. He abandoned all other concerns, grabbing his coat and heading to the hospital with urgency, the city streets passing in a blur as adrenaline propelled him forward. Each light, each turn, each second of delay intensified the ache in his chest, a combination of fear and anger that sharpened his resolve. By the time he reached the hospital, his mind was focused entirely on reaching Emily and ensuring her safety. Inside the room, Emily's condition worsened as the combination of pain, fear, and trauma continued to take its toll. The fetal monitor's alarm persisted, a relentless reminder that intervention was critical. Anna, assessing the scene with expertise, coordinated with other staff, preparing for emergency measures while maintaining verbal reassurance for Emily. She instructed Lisa to release her grip, but Lisa hesitated, revealing the extent of her complicity. Michael, sensing that control was slipping, attempted to regain composure, framing the situation to deflect responsibility. Every second was a test of endurance for Emily, whose focus remained unwaveringly on protecting her child from the physical and emotional harm unfolding around her. As Robert finally entered the room, his presence was a turning point. Emily's gaze found her father, and a flicker of relief cut through the pain. Robert's eyes took in the scene, the injuries, the tension, and the clear evidence of intentional harm. He did not waste words with Michael or Lisa initially. His focus was on Emily's safety and ensuring that the immediate danger to both mother and child was neutralized. His authority and determination filled the room, altering the dynamic instantly. Michael and Lisa's confidence began to waver, the carefully constructed narrative collapsing in the presence of someone who would not be intimidated or manipulated. Medical staff moved swiftly under Robert's direction, positioning themselves to protect Emily and prepare for emergency care. Each action was deliberate. Emily was carefully lifted back onto the bed, her body treated with precision to prevent further harm, while the fetal monitor's readings were stabilized through rapid intervention. The chaos that Michael and Lisa had instigated was being dismantled systematically, replaced by a coordinated effort focused on recovery, safety, and accountability. Robert remained at Emily's side, a steady presence, grounding her as the team worked around them. The confrontation had reached its peak, and the room, once a theater of intimidation and threat, became a site of decisive action. Emily, though in pain, found strength in her father's presence and the medical team's unwavering focus. Michael and Lisa were now confronted not only with the immediate consequences of their actions, but with the fact that their influence and attempts at control were powerless against a father determined to protect his child. The events of that night marked the beginning of a struggle that would extend beyond the hospital walls. But within that room, Emily's safety and the stabilization of her unborn child became the immediate priority, carried out with precision, authority, and the unwavering determination of those unwilling to let harm prevail. Robert Johnson burst into the hospital room with every ounce of urgency and determination he had carried across the city streets. His gaze locked onto Emily first, noting the tremor in her hands, the pallor of her face, and the protective curl around her abdomen. The sight ignited a surge of anger and fear that channeled directly into a focused determination. Nothing and no one would harm his daughter again. Michael Carter stood stiffly near the bed, his expression flickering between irritation and calculated defiance. But Robert's presence altered the balance of power instantly. Lisa Monroe's confidence faltered as she recognized the authority in Robert's posture, the unyielding intent in his eyes that brooked no excuses. Emily's tears welled as she recognized her father, relief threading through her fear, giving her a measure of hope amidst the pain. Robert's first action was deliberate. He moved between Michael and the bed, positioning himself to prevent any further contact with Emily. His voice, controlled yet commanding, demanded an explanation for what had just transpired. Michael attempted to fabricate a story, claiming that Emily had lost her balance, that it was an accident caused by emotional instability and sudden movement. His words were rehearsed, polished, and intended to obscure the truth. Robert did not respond to the story, instead scanning Emily's body, taking in the evidence in plain sight, the bruises on her arms, the tension in her posture, the visible signs of trauma. The contrast between Michael's narrative and reality was undeniable. Every fiber of Robert's being focused on the imperative to protect Emily, to restore the control that had been violently taken from her. Meanwhile, the medical staff, led by Nurse Anna Thompson and Dr. Oliver Lane, worked swiftly to stabilize Emily and the baby. The fetal monitor had registered alarming readings, and Dr. Lane instructed the team to assess vital signs, administer medication, and prepare for emergency intervention if necessary. Robert coordinated quietly but effectively, moving with authority through the room, giving precise instructions to staff while keeping his attention on Emily's well-being. Lisa Monroe, who had previously moved with assurance, now shifted uneasily, her eyes darting between Emily, Robert, and Michael. Her prior dominance in the room dissolved in the presence of a father determined to protect his child. Robert did not waste time on negotiation. He placed himself directly between Michael and Emily, ensuring that no further aggression could be enacted. Michael, realizing that his control had slipped, attempted to assert authority through words, claiming that his actions were exaggerated, that Emily's pain was overstated, and that the hospital staff was overreacting. Robert's response was measured but unyielding. His only concern was Emily and her child. He instructed Michael to leave the room immediately, emphasizing that his presence endangered the patient. Michael's defiance met with Robert's unwavering authority, creating a palpable tension that filled the room. The situation escalated physically when Robert seized Michael by the collar, pulling him close to make clear that no further harm would come to Emily. The act was controlled, deliberate, and entirely protective. Michael struggled, his attempts to break free frantic and ineffective. Lisa's panic became audible as she realized the narrative she had relied upon was collapsing. The medical staff acted cautiously around the confrontation, ensuring Emily remained on the bed and monitored, while still allowing Robert to assert control. Cameras in the hallway captured the entire episode, documenting every movement and reaction. The moment had transformed from a private act of aggression into evidence that would hold up under scrutiny. Emily, though still trembling from pain, watched her father with relief and trust. The presence of someone willing to defend her created a psychological shift, enabling her to focus on her body and the child she carried rather than the immediate threat. Her breathing steadied marginally as Robert ensured she was supported on the bed, adjusting pillows, providing physical presence, and issuing instructions to the staff. Lane checked the fetal monitor, noting that the readings, while still concerning, had stabilized sufficiently to allow focused intervention rather than emergency resuscitation. The team's calm and methodical response, combined with Robert's protective authority, created a controlled environment where Emily's safety was prioritized above all else. After the immediate threat was contained, Robert worked with hospital security to ensure Michael and Lisa could not interfere further. Security officers arrived promptly, guided by Robert's account and corroborated by staff observations. Michael's attempts to explain or manipulate the situation were rendered ineffective by the objective evidence, including Emily's visible injuries and the fetal monitor readings. Lisa attempted to interject, claiming limited involvement, but Robert and the staff made clear that the sequence of events had been observed and documented. Every action, from the fall to the restraint, was recorded and would be preserved as evidence for authorities. Once security ensured that Emily was no longer at risk, Robert shifted his attention fully to her medical care. He remained at her side, holding her hand, speaking softly to reassure her, and assisting in maintaining a calm environment. Emily's tears flowed freely, not from fear but from a profound release, the knowledge that she was protected, that the threat had been neutralized, and that the trauma she endured would be acknowledged and addressed. The medical team continued to monitor her and the baby, administering medication to manage pain and stabilize vital signs. Lane updated Robert on the baby's condition, confirming that while the child had experienced stress, immediate danger had been mitigated through rapid response. The hours that followed involved both medical intervention and the collection of evidence for legal accountability. Robert worked with hospital administration to ensure that footage from security cameras was secured, statements from staff were recorded, and the incident was formally documented. He made calls to authorities, reporting the assault and ensuring that Michael and Lisa would face consequences beyond the hospital walls. The evidence was clear and irrefutable, and Robert's decisive actions prevented any attempt to manipulate or obscure the truth. Emily, supported by her father and the medical team, regained physical composure while her father's presence reinforced emotional stability. By the following morning, Emily had been stabilized further, her pain managed, and the baby's heart rate steady. The intervention of her father, combined with the skilled care of the medical staff, had turned a potentially catastrophic situation into one where recovery was possible. Legal authorities were involved, and Michael and Lisa were formally placed under investigation for assault and complicity. Emily was able to communicate with law enforcement, providing details of the incident with clarity, supported by the corroborating accounts of medical staff and security footage. Robert ensured that the process moved efficiently, advocating for his daughter's rights and protection every step of the way. Throughout the ordeal, Emily experienced a profound shift in understanding the limits of trust and the strength of familial protection. The violation she endured at the hands of those who should have cared for her transformed into a narrative of survival and empowerment. Robert's intervention did not merely halt immediate danger, it signaled that justice, and accountability were inevitable. That the systems designed to protect victims could function effectively when action was decisive. Emily's recovery was gradual but assured, supported by both medical expertise and the unwavering presence of her father. By the end of the ordeal, Emily's physical state had stabilized, the baby remained secure, and the legal groundwork was in place to ensure that Michael and Lisa would face appropriate consequences. The hospital environment, once a site of threat, had become a space of protection, intervention, and accountability. Emily's reliance on her father's protection illustrated the profound impact of immediate, decisive action in moments of extreme vulnerability. The combination of personal courage, familial loyalty, and professional intervention provided a model of how crisis could be managed effectively, ensuring that harm was mitigated and justice pursued. After the events at New York Medical Center, the case against Michael Carter and Lisa Monroe moved quickly into the legal system. Robert Johnson retained a top criminal defense attorney on behalf of Emily, not for defending the accused but to ensure that every procedural step would hold in court. He knew that the power and wealth wielded by Michael might allow him to manipulate narratives or exploit loopholes, so meticulous preparation was essential. Hospital reports, security footage, medical testimony, and staff statements were compiled and organized into a comprehensive body of evidence. The documentation included detailed accounts of Emily's injuries, the fetal monitor readings at the time of the assault, and the recorded behaviors of Michael and Lisa. Every element was preserved to ensure that the truth could withstand the scrutiny of the courtroom. The charges brought against Michael were serious assault on a pregnant woman, endangerment of an unborn child, and obstruction of emergency medical care. Lisa faced charges of complicity for restraining Emily and failing to prevent harm. The indictment outlined the sequence of events with precise attention to timing, detailing how Michael's violent actions had directly caused trauma and placed both mother and child in imminent danger. Public attention quickly followed, and media outlets picked up the story, emphasizing the shocking nature of violence within a hospital, a space where safety is presumed and vulnerability is absolute. News reports highlighted the images of Emily on the floor, surrounded by medical staff and police, painting a vivid picture of the consequences of unchecked aggression and manipulation. Emily's court preparations were deliberate and careful. She was supported by a nurse from the hospital, who had witnessed the events firsthand and was prepared to testify to the accuracy of the medical observations. Emily attended counseling sessions to manage the trauma she had endured, and she practiced recounting the events in her own words, ensuring her testimony would be clear, focused, and consistent. Robert provided steady support, sitting with her through each meeting, offering reassurance, and helping her maintain composure. He also coordinated with legal counsel to anticipate every possible defense strategy Michael might employ, from casting doubt on her credibility to framing the incident as an accident. The courtroom was tense the day the trial began. Emily arrived with her father, supported by medical personnel, and took her seat with quiet determination. Michael sat across from her, attempting to project calm while Lisa's expression wavered between defiance and apprehension. The prosecutor opened with a detailed account of the night of the assault, emphasizing the immediacy of danger to both Emily and her unborn child. Every piece of evidence, from video footage to eyewitness statements, was presented with clarity, showing a timeline of deliberate and coordinated aggression. Security footage displayed Michael's violent kick, the subsequent fall, and Lisa's actions in restraining Emily, leaving little room for ambiguity. When Emily took the stand, her testimony was measured and compelling. She described the pain, fear, and confusion she experienced as the events unfolded, recounting each detail with clarity. She spoke of the physical impact, the terror of seeing her husband act violently, and the way Lisa had actively prevented her from protecting herself. Her words were supported by objective evidence, bruises visible in medical reports, the fetal monitor readings that indicated distress, and the accounts of staff members who had intervened immediately. The courtroom listened intently, understanding the gravity of the assault and the calculated nature of the actions. Michael's defense team attempted to discredit Emily's account, suggesting emotional instability and claiming that her recollection might be exaggerated due to stress or fear. They framed the incident as an accident caused by a sudden loss of balance. emphasizing his history of generosity toward the hospital and community, implying that he should be trusted. Lisa's attorneys attempted a similar approach, portraying her as caught in a moment of confusion, acting without understanding the full consequences of the situation. However, the thorough documentation of events, combined with Emily's calm and precise testimony, undermined these claims. The video evidence, the consistency of witness statements, and the medical records provided irrefutable support for her account. The prosecution further emphasized the consequences of Michael's actions, highlighting the direct risk to the unborn child. Medical experts testified about the physiological impact of trauma during pregnancy, explaining how the kick and fall could have led to fetal distress or miscarriage if not for immediate intervention. They detailed the importance of prompt medical care, noting that Emily's survival and the baby's stability were contingent on the rapid actions of the hospital staff and the presence of her father. The expert testimony painted a clear picture of deliberate endangerment and the severity of the offenses committed. Throughout the trial, Robert remained a steady figure in the courtroom. His presence provided Emily with emotional grounding, and it served as a reminder to all present of the broader context, the protection of his daughter, and the pursuit of justice. Robert did not speak out of turn, but his attentive gaze and poised demeanor reinforced the seriousness of the proceedings. The defense's attempts to manipulate perception faltered under the weight of documented evidence and the resolute testimonies of medical personnel and Emily herself. As the trial progressed, the jury reviewed hours of footage and read through detailed reports that corroborated the sequence of events. They listened to each witness carefully, weighing every statement against the evidence. The narrative was clear: Michael's actions were intentional, harmful, and dangerous, while Lisa's complicity had prevented Emily from defending herself or mitigating the harm. The legal process, meticulous and thorough, ensured that every aspect of the case was examined, leaving little room for doubt or misrepresentation. When the verdict was delivered, the courtroom held a tense anticipation. Michael was found guilty on all charges: assault on a pregnant woman, endangerment of an unborn child, and obstruction of medical care. Lisa was found guilty of complicity in the assault, acknowledging her role in restraining Emily and enabling the attack. The sentencing reflected the gravity of the offenses. Michael was sentenced to a significant term of imprisonment, with strict limitations and oversight, while Lisa received a separate sentence commensurate with her involvement. The court made it clear that the law would hold individuals accountable, regardless of wealth, influence, or attempts to manipulate circumstances. Following the verdict, Emily began the process of rebuilding her life. She signed divorce papers, asserting her independence and reclaiming autonomy over her personal and familial life. Robert remained a consistent presence, providing support without intrusion, ensuring that Emily's decisions were respected and that her sense of safety and security was reinforced. Emily also focused on her recovery, both physically and emotionally, attending follow-up medical appointments, therapy sessions, and spending time nurturing her newborn child, who had been safely delivered after weeks of monitoring and care. The public reaction to the case highlighted broader societal concerns about violence against pregnant women and the accountability of those who exploit positions of power and trust. Media coverage emphasized the effectiveness of swift intervention, both by family and medical professionals, and the importance of preserving evidence in holding perpetrators responsible. The story of Emily Johnson became a cautionary tale, demonstrating that the systems in place could protect vulnerable individuals and that justice could be achieved when evidence and advocacy were aligned. In the weeks and months that followed, Emily gradually reclaimed her sense of normalcy. She returned to routines, engaged in ordinary activities, and focused on her child's development. The trauma of the assault remained a part of her history, but it no longer dictated her present. Through support, careful legal action, and personal resilience, Emily established boundaries and a sense of control that had been denied to her during the incident. Robert continued to offer guidance and protection when necessary, while allowing her the space to navigate her new life on her terms. The resolution of the legal process provided closure, a measure of justice, and a foundation upon which Emily could rebuild a life defined by safety, autonomy, and intentionality. The case also served as a lasting reminder that accountability matters. Individuals who commit acts of violence, particularly against the vulnerable, would face consequences. Systems of law, when combined with decisive action from family and professionals, had the power to protect victims and ensure that justice prevailed. Emily's story concluded not with defeat or despair, but with the establishment of security, the affirmation of truth, and the reassurance that life, even after profound trauma, could move forward with hope, safety, and dignity. In the weeks after the courtroom verdict, Emily Johnson began the gradual process of reclaiming her life, focusing on recovery, restoration, and the nurturing of her newborn daughter. Each day was a careful balance of physical healing and emotional restoration. As her body processed the trauma of both the assault and the pregnancy complications that followed, the medical team continued to monitor her condition, ensuring that bruises were healing, muscles were regaining strength, and her body could gradually resume normal activity. She attended follow-up appointments regularly, each session reinforcing the knowledge that her body had survived and that the life she carried had been protected. Emily's focus on her daughter's health became a grounding force, guiding her decisions and providing a renewed sense of purpose. Emily's emotional recovery was equally important. She met regularly with a therapist who specialized in trauma and domestic violence, addressing not only the events of that night but also the lingering fear, anxiety, and mistrust that had been woven into her daily life. In these sessions, Emily confronted the ways in which the assault had undermined her sense of autonomy, exploring strategies to reclaim control over her choices and environment. She learned to recognize triggers, to assert boundaries, and to cultivate a sense of inner strength that was protective yet nurturing, a strength that would serve her as both mother and survivor. Robert Johnson remained a supportive presence throughout these sessions, attending occasionally to understand how he could best help without imposing. His role became one of careful guidance, allowing Emily to take the lead in defining her path forward. The home environment became a sanctuary, carefully arranged to provide safety and stability. Emily and her daughter moved into a space where Emily could control access, regulate interactions, and establish routines that reinforced security. She organized the home to be both functional and comforting, arranging spaces where she could rest, where her child could play safely, and where she could engage in reflection and self-care. The small rituals, morning walks, quiet reading times, and shared meals were transformed into acts of healing. These moments, ordinary in appearance, carried profound significance. Each day offered an opportunity for Emily to witness her child thriving and for herself to grow stronger, physically, emotionally, and mentally. Emily also focused on rebuilding her support network. Friends and family who had been present in the background of her life stepped forward in new ways, providing practical assistance, emotional support, and companionship. Community groups specializing in survivors of domestic violence offered resources, guidance, and connection to others who had endured similar trauma. Emily's engagement with these networks created a sense of belonging and validation, reinforcing that the experiences she had endured were real and deserved acknowledgement. The network of support became a framework upon which Emily could build resilience, learn coping strategies, and cultivate a renewed sense of personal empowerment. At the same time, Emily prioritized the legal and administrative aspects of her new life. She finalized her divorce from Michael Carter, taking steps to sever legal and financial ties, ensuring that her autonomy and safety were reinforced through formal measures. The process was deliberate, thorough, and emotionally taxing, yet each signed document, each completed form, and each legal acknowledgement represented a reclaiming of control. Emily's focus remained forward-looking. The divorce was not merely a conclusion of a legal relationship but a symbolic step in reasserting her identity, autonomy, and boundaries. Robert remained present during these proceedings, offering counsel and reassurance while allowing Emily to make her own decisions, demonstrating a model of support that was firm yet respectful. As Emily adjusted to life as a single mother, her attention shifted to fostering a secure and nurturing environment for her daughter. She became attuned to her child's cues, learning to interpret the subtle signs of distress, curiosity, and joy. Every action, feeding, comforting, playing, and reading was infused with mindfulness and intention. Emily recognized the importance of establishing routines that offered predictability and stability, knowing that these factors would contribute to her daughter's sense of security and overall well-being. She also embraced the role of educator and guide, planning activities that would foster cognitive, emotional, and social development, ensuring that her child would grow in a space where care and attentiveness were constants. Emily's healing also encompassed reflection and personal growth. She spent time examining her experiences, documenting her thoughts and emotions, and considering the ways in which she had survived both trauma and betrayal. Writing became a therapeutic tool, allowing her to process events, articulate feelings that had previously been overwhelming, and record lessons learned. She acknowledged her resilience and capacity for endurance, recognizing that her survival was not simply a matter of circumstance, but also a product of her own determination and the protective actions of those who supported her. These reflections became a source of empowerment, reinforcing her commitment to protecting herself and her child from future harm. Community involvement emerged as another avenue of healing. Emily began participating in advocacy efforts, sharing her story with local organizations dedicated to preventing domestic violence and supporting survivors. While she did not seek public attention, her willingness to engage in educational initiatives and mentorship provided meaning and purpose. By helping others navigate similar challenges, she reinforced her own sense of agency and contributed to broader societal awareness. Her actions demonstrated that healing could extend beyond personal recovery, encompassing efforts to prevent harm and support resilience in others. Throughout this period, Emily remained vigilant regarding personal safety. She implemented security measures in her home, carefully managed social interactions, and established clear boundaries with individuals who might compromise her or her child's well-being. These actions were practical, deliberate, and protective, reflecting an understanding that recovery included not only emotional and physical restoration, but also proactive measures to maintain security. Emily's awareness and assertiveness were reinforced by her father's guidance, providing a model of how protective measures could coexist with autonomy and independence. The months that followed saw incremental milestones of normalcy and growth. Emily observed her own body regaining strength, her energy increasing, and her ability to engage fully with her environment improving steadily. Emotional recovery progressed in tandem, as anxiety became more manageable, fear receded, and confidence in decision-making was restored. Her child's development, thriving under attentive care, provided affirmation of the effectiveness of these measures and reinforced the transformative power of safety, consistency, and nurturing. Each day, small victories accumulated, forming the foundation for a life rebuilt on stability, autonomy, and intentionality. As Emily reflected on the long journey, she recognized that the past, though painful, had imparted important lessons about resilience, agency, and the importance of advocacy. She understood that boundaries, vigilance, and the courage to assert one's needs were essential tools for both survival and thriving. Emily committed to ensuring that her daughter's life would begin in a context of protection, love, and stability, an environment where fear would not dictate choices and where empowerment would be central to development. The experience had forged a parent who was attuned, determined, and resilient, capable of navigating future challenges with awareness, confidence, and authority. By the end of this recovery period, Emily had established a rhythm to life that balanced care for her child, attention to her own well-being, and engagement with supportive networks. The trauma of the past remained a part of her story, but it no longer defined her daily existence. She had reclaimed her autonomy, reinforced her boundaries, and cultivated a life grounded in protection, love, and intentionality. Her story became one of survival, resilience, and proactive empowerment, demonstrating that recovery is not simply a return to a prior state but a conscious creation of a safer, stronger, and more controlled future. With the courtroom behind them and the immediate threats neutralized, Emily Johnson focused on constructing a life that balanced recovery, autonomy, and the deep responsibilities of motherhood. Each day presented a new challenge, from managing her own healing to creating a nurturing environment for her daughter, Lily. Emily's home became a carefully designed sanctuary where safety and predictability governed every corner. Rooms were arranged to allow her to move freely while maintaining a secure space for her child, and routines were structured to instill consistency, giving Lily a foundation where comfort and care replaced fear and unpredictability. Simple tasks, morning breakfasts, scheduled nap times, reading sessions transformed into rituals that fortified both mother and child. Every repetition provided reassurance, establishing a rhythm that supported emotional resilience alongside physical recovery. Emily devoted considerable energy to her own emotional and mental health. Trauma counseling remained a priority, offering her strategies to process residual fear, frustration, and anger. The sessions helped her differentiate between past danger and present safety, enabling her to respond with awareness rather than reflexive caution. Techniques such as guided reflection, journaling, and controlled breathing exercises allowed her to regain a sense of control over her body and mind. Emily also explored community support groups, connecting with other survivors of domestic violence who shared their experiences, coping mechanisms, and successes. These interactions fostered a sense of empowerment, validating her own journey and providing insight into ways she could strengthen her emotional resilience while guiding her child through a stable and loving environment. Family dynamics evolved as Robert Johnson continued to play a crucial role in Emily's life. He offered protection, guidance, and practical support without overstepping boundaries, allowing Emily to establish authority in her home while remaining assured that immediate help was available if necessary. Their relationship grew into a model of balanced support, firm but non-intrusive, protective but respectful of Emily's autonomy. Robert assisted with childcare, coordinated appointments, and sometimes intervened when external contacts or lingering concerns posed potential risks. His consistent presence provided a sense of continuity, demonstrating to Emily and Lily that protection and support could coexist with independence. Legal safeguards remained an important aspect of Emily's rebuilt life. She maintained awareness of restraining orders, custody rights, and emergency procedures to ensure both her own safety and that of Lily. By keeping detailed records and staying informed about legal protections, Emily established a framework that reinforced her authority and minimized the risk of future interference from Michael Carter or his associates. The combination of legal measures, personal vigilance, and strategic planning created a layered security network that allowed Emily to reclaim her sense of safety. Each day, she built upon this foundation, knowing that the routines and precautions she established were vital for long-term stability. Emily's relationship with her daughter deepened as the months progressed. Observing Lily's developmental milestones, first words, first steps, growing curiosity about the world became sources of profound joy and motivation. Emily approached parenting with intention, mindful that her past experiences informed the vigilance she brought into this role. She nurtured Lily's sense of security, providing explanations appropriate to age, comforting her when upset, and modeling consistent boundaries. By creating a home where emotional expression was encouraged and respected, Emily reinforced the lessons she had learned that strength can coexist with vulnerability, that protection is a form of love, and that trust is earned and safeguarded carefully. Professional and personal growth also became a focus. Emily returned to her career incrementally, ensuring that work responsibilities did not compromise her capacity to care for Lily or attend to her ongoing recovery. Colleagues were briefed on her situation when necessary, providing a network of accountability and support. Within her community, Emily engaged in volunteer work related to domestic violence advocacy, using her experiences to educate and empower others. These engagements allowed her to channel residual trauma into purpose, providing her with a sense of agency that extended beyond personal recovery. Her public participation was carefully measured, balancing visibility with privacy, and reflecting her growing confidence in navigating the world on her own terms. As the months turned into a year, Emily's sense of autonomy strengthened. She became attuned to her environment, recognizing potential stressors and preemptively addressing them. Security measures in her home were maintained and updated as needed, and interactions with external parties were conducted with clear expectations and boundaries. This vigilance was not born of fear alone, but from a proactive approach to ensuring stability and safety for both herself and her child. Emily's daily routine was carefully calibrated. Periods of rest, work, play, reflection, and caregiving were balanced in a way that maximized energy and minimized exposure to unnecessary stressors. Each success reinforced her confidence, demonstrating that she was capable of managing her own life effectively while prioritizing her child's well-being. Emily's emotional resilience grew alongside her daughter's development. She observed patterns in her own responses, learning to identify anxiety triggers, recognizing residual fears, and implementing coping strategies before these feelings escalated. Mindfulness practices became integral to her day-to-day life, including focused breathing, visualization exercises, and reflective journaling. These methods helped her stay grounded and allowed her to model healthy emotional regulation for Lily. She also nurtured positive relationships with friends and extended family, surrounding herself with individuals who contributed to a stable, supportive environment and who could reinforce the lessons of protection, empathy, and consistency she sought to instill in her daughter. The relationship between Emily and Robert continued to evolve positively. Robert's involvement was carefully structured, allowing Emily to exercise independence while providing a trusted safety net. Their interactions included shared parenting responsibilities, planning for contingencies, and maintaining a household environment conducive to recovery. He also assisted in navigating ongoing legal considerations, offering guidance when necessary while deferring to Emily's judgment. This collaboration fostered trust and reinforced the notion that support could be both reliable and non-intrusive, further solidifying Emily's confidence in her ability to manage life's challenges. Emily's focus on long-term stability extended to her financial and logistical planning. She established budgets, created emergency funds, and organized childcare schedules to ensure predictability. These measures, though practical, were also symbolic, representing the control she had reclaimed over her life. Every decision reinforced her autonomy and ability to protect her child from instability, further embedding a sense of empowerment that contrasted sharply with the helplessness she had experienced during the assault. Through careful attention to her physical health, Emily regained strength, stamina, and vitality. Regular exercise, appropriate nutrition, and restorative practices ensured that she could meet the demands of parenting while maintaining her own well-being. Sleep schedules, while interrupted by the realities of infant care, were optimized to balance rest and recovery. Each improvement in physical resilience reinforced her emotional stability, creating a holistic sense of recovery that encompassed body, mind, and spirit. By the end of this period, Emily had transformed her life into one defined by protection, purpose, and empowerment. She created a nurturing environment for Lily, sustained supportive relationships, maintained her own physical and emotional health, and cultivated independence reinforced by strategic legal and security measures. Her experiences had instilled an enduring vigilance, but this vigilance was paired with intentionality, love, and hope. Emily's journey demonstrated that recovery is not a passive process but an active, deliberate construction of safety, resilience, and agency. Emily's life, once marred by violence and fear, now reflected strength, foresight, and care. Her daughter grew in an environment rich with stability, attention, and opportunity, where lessons of resilience and love were modeled daily. The legacy of trauma had been transformed into a foundation for empowerment, creating a household and a life that honored both the challenges endured and the victories achieved. Emily's story, while rooted in hardship, became one of transformation, a testament to the power of protection, intentional living, and the unwavering pursuit of a secure, meaningful future. Years after the assault and legal battles, Emily Johnson's life had transformed in ways she had never imagined possible. The fear and vulnerability that once defined her daily existence had been replaced with deliberate empowerment, structured routines, and a deep understanding of the importance of safety and autonomy. She had established a home where every element, from lighting to locks, from room arrangement to daily schedules, was designed with protection and stability in mind. Emily approached each day with mindfulness, balancing motherhood, personal development, and professional engagement while ensuring that her daughter, Lily, thrived in an environment that nurtured both growth and security. Emily's focus extended beyond basic survival. She sought to create a life that was both meaningful and resilient. Each morning, she woke early to engage in personal reflection, journaling about her goals, her feelings, and the intentions she wanted to bring to the day. These practices allowed her to process the lingering trauma, recognize her growth, and maintain emotional clarity. Emily had learned that empowerment was not only about protecting herself from external threats, but also about cultivating internal strength, the kind that informed every decision and response she made. This internal fortitude was evident in how she managed her household, balanced responsibilities, and engaged with the community. Parenting became a central pillar of Emily's life, not just as a duty but as a deliberate act of shaping a safe and supportive environment for Lily. She carefully observed her daughter's development, celebrating milestones with attentiveness and ensuring that each stage of growth was accompanied by guidance, comfort, and encouragement. Emily fostered a sense of security by maintaining predictable routines, from morning meals to bedtime rituals, which helped Lily feel grounded in her surroundings. She also taught her daughter about boundaries, communication, and respect, modeling behaviors that emphasized both empathy and self-assurance. Emily understood that instilling confidence in Lily was as important as maintaining her physical safety, and she approached parenting with a balance of firmness and warmth. Emily's commitment to her own growth remained steadfast. She pursued continuing education, professional opportunities, and community engagement, ensuring that her skills and knowledge expanded alongside her personal development. These endeavors were carefully integrated into her life, allowing her to maintain stability while pursuing goals that fostered independence and self-reliance. Emily also participated in advocacy work for survivors of domestic violence, sharing her experiences with organizations and support groups. Through these efforts, she transformed her personal trauma into a tool for broader social impact, helping others navigate challenges, assert boundaries, and reclaim autonomy. Financial security became another cornerstone of Emily's long-term empowerment. She carefully managed her resources, maintaining budgets, emergency funds, and strategic plans for both immediate needs and future contingencies. This financial autonomy allowed her to make decisions without undue reliance on external parties, reducing vulnerability and increasing her ability to respond to unexpected challenges. Emily understood that security was multidimensional, encompassing physical safety, emotional resilience, and economic independence, and she deliberately cultivated each aspect in harmony. Emily also emphasized the cultivation of strong, supportive relationships. She surrounded herself with friends, family, and mentors who respected her boundaries, reinforced her confidence, and provided practical and emotional support when needed. These relationships were intentionally maintained, with clear communication and mutual understanding guiding interactions. Emily recognized that the quality of connections in her life had a direct impact on her stability and her ability to protect her family. By nurturing positive and reliable relationships, she built a social network that reinforced the lessons of safety, trust, and empowerment she sought to embody. The home environment was carefully maintained to ensure both safety and comfort. Emily implemented security systems, controlled access points, and created spaces where she and Lily could engage in activities without fear of disruption or harm. She also designed areas for reflection, creativity, and play, ensuring that the home supported emotional and cognitive development. Each element, from furniture placement to lighting choices, was deliberate, reinforcing a sense of order and predictability that underpinned the family's sense of security. Emily's attention to detail in these aspects reflected her understanding that a stable environment could enhance resilience, promote confidence, and reduce anxiety for both mother and child. Emily also invested in her own physical health, recognizing the interplay between body, mind, and emotional resilience. Regular exercise, balanced nutrition, and restorative practices such as meditation and yoga became integral components of her daily routine. These practices allowed her to maintain energy, manage stress, and model healthy behaviors for Lily. Emily approached health as a proactive measure, not merely a response to illness or fatigue, understanding that physical strength and emotional stability were intertwined. Her ability to care for herself effectively translated into a stronger capacity to care for her daughter and manage the responsibilities of life independently. In addition to personal and familial growth, Emily remained committed to long-term planning and foresight. She anticipated challenges, created contingency plans, and evaluated risks systematically. This approach was evident in her preparation for emergencies, her engagement with legal protections, and her attention to both financial and logistical matters. By proactively addressing potential vulnerabilities, Emily minimized uncertainty and reinforced her sense of control over her environment. Her approach was deliberate and informed by her past experiences, transforming lessons learned from trauma into tools for enduring stability. Emily's advocacy work continued to grow in scope and impact. She collaborated with organizations that provided resources for survivors of domestic violence, conducted workshops, and shared her story publicly in controlled, intentional settings. Her voice became a source of inspiration and practical guidance for others facing similar challenges. She demonstrated that survival was not an endpoint but a foundation for meaningful action, highlighting how empowerment could extend beyond personal recovery to influence broader societal change. As Emily's life progressed, she also cultivated mindfulness and intentionality in her daily interactions with Lily. She modeled emotional regulation, empathy, and problem-solving, allowing her daughter to witness constructive approaches to conflict and challenge. Through guided play, shared reading, and open communication, Emily fostered a strong bond with her child, reinforcing safety, trust, and emotional intelligence. Lily's growing confidence and curiosity reflected the stable and nurturing environment Emily had carefully constructed, validating the importance of proactive parenting and thoughtful environmental design. Community engagement remained a vital aspect of Emily's life. She participated in neighborhood initiatives, contributed to local programs for families and children, and used her experiences to mentor others navigating similar situations. Her active involvement reinforced a sense of purpose and connection, strengthening her own resilience while creating a ripple effect of support and empowerment for others. By engaging meaningfully with her community, Emily demonstrated that personal recovery and societal contribution could coexist, creating a life that was both fulfilling and secure. Emily's relationship with her father, Robert, matured into one of mutual respect and collaboration. He remained a trusted advisor, providing insight, support, and guidance without overstepping boundaries. Robert's continued presence reinforced the sense of security Emily had cultivated, while allowing her to maintain authority over her household and decisions. Their partnership exemplified how family support could be integrated into autonomy, providing protection while respecting independence. By the end of this period, Emily had fully reclaimed control over her life. Her home, her routines, her parenting, and her community engagement reflected intentionality, stability, and resilience. The trauma of her past no longer dictated the terms of her existence. Instead, she had transformed those experiences into a framework for empowerment, safety, and growth. Emily's story illustrated the possibility of creating a life defined by choice, purpose, and protection, demonstrating that survival and thriving were not mutually exclusive. Emily looked to the future with confidence. She had cultivated the tools, routines, relationships, and knowledge necessary to navigate challenges, protect her child, and maintain autonomy. Her experiences had instilled a deep understanding of the value of preparedness, vigilance, and intentional action. The life she built was a testament to resilience, strategic foresight, and the enduring power of love and protection, offering a legacy of safety and strength for her daughter to inherit. As the years progressed, Emily Johnson found herself fully immersed in the life she had meticulously rebuilt. Each day was carefully structured, balancing the responsibilities of motherhood with personal growth, professional ambitions, and community engagement. Her daughter Lily had grown into a lively, curious child whose confidence reflected the security and consistency Emily had provided. Emily had transformed her home into more than just a place to live. It was a sanctuary, a space designed with intention, where every room, every routine, and every interaction contributed to a sense of stability and protection. From morning rituals of breakfast and reading to evening routines of reflection and preparation for the next day, Emily created an environment where predictability offered comfort, and careful planning ensured safety. Emily's focus on personal growth extended beyond her role as a parent. She pursued continuing education and professional development, seeking opportunities that aligned with her values and interests. These endeavors reinforced her autonomy, allowed her to regain professional confidence, and provided a tangible sense of accomplishment outside the home. Emily understood that rebuilding her life required both internal strength and external independence. By maintaining control over her career and finances, she reduced vulnerability and strengthened her ability to make decisions that prioritized her well-being and that of her daughter. Each achievement, no matter how small, served as a reminder of her resilience and her capacity to shape her own future. Community engagement became a central component of Emily's long-term vision. She actively collaborated with organizations that supported survivors of domestic violence, sharing her experiences and offering guidance to those navigating similar challenges. Her involvement ranged from participating in educational workshops to mentoring women who had recently left abusive relationships. By turning her personal history into a resource for others, Emily cultivated a sense of purpose and meaning that transcended her own recovery. She understood that empowerment was amplified when it was shared, and her work within the community allowed her to channel the pain and trauma of the past into action that created positive change for others. Emily also prioritized emotional intelligence and mindful parenting as she guided Lily's growth. She created an environment where feelings were acknowledged, boundaries were respected, and problem-solving was approached constructively. Through these interactions, Lily learned to articulate her needs, express emotions effectively, and navigate social situations with confidence. Emily's approach to parenting was deliberate. She modeled resilience, empathy, and self-assurance, knowing that the lessons she imparted would shape her daughter's ability to thrive independently. The sense of safety and predictability in the home allowed Lily to explore the world with curiosity, knowing that guidance and protection were always present. Financial independence remained a cornerstone of Emily's empowerment strategy. She maintained careful budgeting practices, established long-term savings and investment plans, and ensured that she had resources available for emergencies. This financial foresight was not only practical but symbolic, reinforcing her autonomy and reducing dependence on external factors that could compromise her security. By actively managing her finances, Emily created a foundation that allowed her to make life decisions with confidence, prioritize her family's needs, and plan for future opportunities without fear or uncertainty. Emily's personal resilience extended to her physical and mental well-being. She maintained a routine of regular exercise, mindful nutrition, and restorative practices such as meditation and yoga. These practices supported her physical health while simultaneously enhancing mental clarity and emotional stability. Emily approached wellness as a holistic endeavor, recognizing that maintaining her body and mind was essential to sustaining her ability to care for her daughter and navigate the challenges of life independently. Each step she took in self-care reinforced a broader commitment to intentional living and proactive empowerment. As Emily's confidence grew, she embraced opportunities to educate and advocate more broadly. She collaborated with policymakers and social service organizations to influence programs designed to support survivors of domestic violence and families in crisis. Emily's voice, informed by personal experience and careful observation, became a valuable resource for shaping initiatives that emphasized prevention, accountability, and empowerment. Her involvement in policy and community education demonstrated a long-term vision that extended beyond her immediate family, ensuring that her experiences contributed to systemic change and the protection of others. The relationship between Emily and Robert Johnson evolved into a model of mutual respect, collaboration, and empowerment. Robert remained a trusted advisor, providing guidance and support without undermining Emily's autonomy. He participated actively in childcare, logistical planning, and legal matters when necessary, reinforcing a network of protection while allowing Emily to assert authority over her household and decisions. Their relationship demonstrated how family support could coexist with independence, offering protection, stability, and confidence to navigate challenges without compromising personal agency. Emily's attention to creating a secure home extended beyond physical safety to include emotional and cognitive development for her daughter. She intentionally designed spaces that encouraged creativity, learning, and exploration while embedding safeguards to prevent hazards. These environments were enriched with books, art supplies, and play areas that allowed Lily to develop curiosity, problem-solving skills, and social awareness. Emily's intentional approach to home life ensured that both protection and enrichment coexisted. Cultivating a space where growth was encouraged and safety was maintained. Social connections were carefully curated to support ongoing empowerment. Emily surrounded herself with individuals who shared her values, respected her boundaries, and contributed positively to her and Lily's well-being. Friends and mentors provided guidance, encouragement, and companionship, reinforcing a sense of community and belonging. These relationships were actively maintained and nurtured, reflecting Emily's understanding that supportive networks were essential for sustaining resilience and protecting against potential threats. Each interaction served as both reinforcement of her recovery and a model for her daughter of healthy, respectful relationships. Emily's advocacy work also included speaking engagements and mentoring programs that allowed her to share insights into trauma recovery, self-protection, and empowerment strategies. She emphasized practical measures, such as creating predictable routines, setting boundaries, and fostering independence, alongside emotional resilience. Through these efforts, Emily became a source of inspiration and practical guidance for other survivors, demonstrating that recovery was not only possible but could be leveraged to empower others and affect broader societal change. In addition to community and advocacy work, Emily maintained deliberate attention to her own goals and ambitions. She pursued opportunities for professional advancement, creative expression, and lifelong learning, ensuring that her identity extended beyond her role as a survivor and mother. By prioritizing personal fulfillment alongside her family responsibilities, Emily modeled a balanced approach to life that emphasized autonomy, growth, and intentional living. Each achievement reinforced her self-confidence and demonstrated to Lily that perseverance and deliberate action could shape a meaningful life. By the time Emily's daughter was ready for school, the routines, values, and protective structures Emily had established allowed both mother and child to navigate the world with confidence. Lily's curiosity and independence were nurtured in a context of security, empathy, and intentional guidance. Emily maintained vigilance and foresight, ensuring that both the home and external environments remained safe while fostering growth and learning. The lessons Emily imparted emphasized personal agency, resilience, and respect for self and others, equipping Lily with tools to navigate her own life effectively. Emily's long-term vision encompassed legacy building. She focused on creating a life that reinforced values of safety, autonomy, empowerment, and advocacy, ensuring that her experiences informed future decisions for both herself and her daughter. She documented her journey, engaged in mentorship, and contributed to policy and community initiatives designed to protect and empower others. Her life became a testament to the possibility of transforming trauma into purpose, illustrating that intentional, proactive measures could secure not only personal recovery, but also long-term impact for generations to come. Through years of deliberate action, reflection, and intentional living, Emily Johnson cultivated a life defined by autonomy, resilience, and empowerment. She demonstrated that survival could be transformed into strength, fear into foresight, and trauma into advocacy. Her home, her relationships, and her community engagement all reflected a consistent focus on protection, growth, and intentionality. Emily's story, once marked by vulnerability and danger, became a blueprint for long-term empowerment, a narrative in which personal agency, preparedness, and love formed the foundation of a safe and thriving future for herself and her daughter. As Emily Johnson's life stabilized, she realized that the experiences she had endured could be transformed into a platform for teaching, advocacy, and systemic change. The challenges she faced, the violence, betrayal, and near loss of her unborn child had instilled in her a profound understanding of resilience, the necessity of proactive protection, and the power of informed action. These lessons became the foundation of a long-term mission to ensure that others, particularly women and children in vulnerable situations, could benefit from knowledge preparation and community support. Emily's vision extended beyond her immediate family, encompassing a commitment to influence her community and society at large, providing tools and inspiration for those navigating adversity. Emily began by formalizing her advocacy work. She partnered with local nonprofit organizations dedicated to supporting survivors of domestic violence, contributing her insights to educational programs and mentorship initiatives. Her involvement was strategic and deliberate. She sought to provide practical guidance, from recognizing early warning signs of abuse to implementing personal safety measures, while also sharing the emotional strategies that had allowed her to recover and thrive. Workshops she led focused on empowering participants to reclaim autonomy, establish clear boundaries, and cultivate resilience in environments that were not always safe. Emily's credibility, rooted in lived experience, allowed her to connect authentically with others, providing encouragement alongside actionable advice. In addition to her advocacy, Emily dedicated herself to public education initiatives. She spoke at schools, community centers, and professional gatherings, highlighting the importance of early intervention, community vigilance, and the integration of supportive networks for families and survivors. Her presentations were infused with practical examples drawn from her own journey, illustrating how knowledge, preparation, and decisive action could prevent harm or mitigate its effects. Emily emphasized the importance of creating a culture of accountability, where perpetrators were held responsible and survivors received timely, competent assistance. Through these engagements, she cultivated awareness and understanding, equipping audiences with the tools to respond to crises effectively. Emily's mentorship extended to one-on-one interactions, working with young women who had recently escaped abusive relationships or were navigating high-risk environments. She guided them in rebuilding their lives, teaching financial literacy, personal safety, and emotional resilience. Each mentoring relationship was structured with intentionality, providing consistent support, skill-building opportunities, and encouragement for long-term autonomy. Emily's approach was holistic, combining practical life skills with emotional guidance, emphasizing that true empowerment required attention to both physical safety and psychological well-being. Through these relationships, she created a network of individuals who not only survived adversity but developed the capacity to thrive independently. Emily also focused on her community as a whole, collaborating with local law enforcement, hospitals, and social service organizations to implement proactive policies for protecting vulnerable individuals. She provided input on protocols for responding to domestic violence incidents, ensuring that staff and authorities were trained to recognize signs of abuse, act decisively, and provide immediate support. Her first-hand perspective was invaluable in refining procedures, highlighting the nuances of trauma-informed care, and advocating for systems that prioritized survivor safety without unnecessary bureaucracy or delay. These efforts contributed to measurable improvements in community responses, reflecting the long-term impact of Emily's advocacy beyond her personal circle. Education within her family remained equally important. Emily instilled values of resilience, awareness, and responsibility in Lily, modeling self-protection, assertiveness, and empathy. She taught her daughter how to navigate social interactions safely, identify potential risks, and advocate for herself and others. Through intentional conversation, shared activities, and observation of Emily's example, Lily internalized lessons of courage, discernment, and proactive thinking. Emily's parenting approach emphasized that preparation and knowledge were essential for long-term security, ensuring that her daughter's early years were shaped by both protection and empowerment. Financial literacy and independence became central themes in Emily's teachings, both within her family and her mentorship work. She demonstrated how strategic planning, savings, and resource management could serve as tools for autonomy and protection. By integrating practical financial lessons with broader concepts of empowerment, Emily emphasized that stability required both material and psychological preparation. Her guidance enabled others to recognize that independence, whether emotional, physical, or financial, was a key component of long-term security and resilience. Emily's personal growth and advocacy also extended into public writing and storytelling. She documented her experiences in articles, guides, and narratives designed to educate and inspire. Her writing focused not on sensationalizing trauma, but on providing structured lessons on safety, resilience, and empowerment. Through her publications, Emily reached audiences beyond her immediate community, sharing insights that were grounded in lived experience while offering actionable guidance. Her narratives became tools for change, demonstrating how personal challenges could be translated into societal impact. Beyond education and advocacy, Emily cultivated a legacy of leadership and mentorship for survivors of violence and trauma. She established programs that paired experienced survivors with newcomers to the system, creating a structured network of guidance, accountability, and support. These programs emphasized skill building, emotional resilience, and community engagement, reinforcing the idea that long-term recovery and empowerment are achieved through deliberate action, sustained support, and proactive learning. Emily's initiatives empowered individuals to move from survival to thriving, equipping them with knowledge, resources, and confidence to navigate complex social and personal landscapes. Emily also addressed the importance of preventive strategies, advocating for awareness campaigns that targeted early recognition of abusive behavior. She collaborated with media outlets, community organizations, and educational institutions to design programs that highlighted warning signs, promoted communication strategies, and underscored the availability of support systems. These campaigns emphasized collective responsibility, illustrating how communities could work together to protect individuals, intervene when necessary, and foster a culture that prioritized safety and accountability. In her own household, Emily reinforced practices of deliberate safety and proactive preparedness. Home routines, communication protocols, and physical spaces were designed to maximize both security and comfort. Emily ensured that Lily learned the importance of situational awareness, problem solving, and assertive communication. She combined these practical lessons with emotional support, modeling resilience through her behavior, decisions, and interactions. This holistic approach created a home environment where knowledge, preparedness, and empowerment were seamlessly integrated into daily life. Emily's long-term vision also included mentorship in professional and personal domains, helping women cultivate leadership skills, self-confidence, and independence. She guided mentees through career planning, navigating organizational structures, and building supportive networks. By connecting personal empowerment with professional development, Emily demonstrated that resilience extends into every aspect of life, highlighting the interdependence of personal safety, self-reliance, and societal participation. Finally, Emily's legacy encompassed the idea that trauma can be transformed into opportunity. Her experiences, once sources of vulnerability and fear, had become catalysts for change, education, and empowerment. She demonstrated that recovery is not only about survival but about intentionally shaping a life that is informed, proactive, and capable of positively influencing others. Emily's actions ensured that her daughter, her mentees, and her community were equipped with knowledge, confidence, and the tools necessary to navigate challenges effectively. Through deliberate action, advocacy, and mentorship, Emily Johnson transformed her story into a blueprint for resilience, safety, and empowerment that would endure across generations. Years after the events that had once threatened her life and the life of her unborn child, Emily Johnson had become a recognized figure in her community for resilience, advocacy, and empowerment. The trauma she endured had transformed into a driving force, fueling her desire to create change not only for herself but for countless others who faced violence, abuse, or marginalization. Her life had shifted from a focus on survival to a mission of impact, where her experiences became tools for education, prevention, and systemic improvement. Emily's home, once a space of fear, had evolved into a hub of security, creativity, and learning, offering a model for how intentional living and thoughtful planning could generate safety and opportunity for generations to come. Emily's approach to leadership in her community was multifaceted. She collaborated with nonprofit schools and local government agencies to develop programs addressing domestic violence, early intervention, and child safety. Her perspective, grounded in lived experience, was invaluable in shaping initiatives that were practical, effective, and responsive to the nuanced realities survivors faced. She worked with educators to implement curricula that taught students how to recognize unhealthy relationships, understand consent, and develop skills for personal safety. By influencing young minds, Emily extended her impact into future generations, ensuring that awareness and resilience could be nurtured early in life. Mentorship remained a central component of Emily's efforts. She guided survivors of domestic violence, new mothers navigating recovery from trauma, and young women entering professional environments. Each mentoring relationship was tailored to the individual's needs, combining practical advice, emotional support, and strategic guidance. Emily emphasized the importance of self-reliance, critical thinking, and proactive safety measures, instilling skills that allowed mentees to navigate life with confidence and authority. Through these interactions, Emily created a network of empowered individuals who could advocate for themselves and others, multiplying the impact of her experience beyond the scope of her own life. Emily also leveraged her professional expertise to create sustainable structures within her community. She consulted with healthcare providers, social workers, and law enforcement to develop coordinated response protocols for domestic violence cases. Her input ensured that interventions were prompt, trauma-informed, and tailored to protect both the survivor and any vulnerable dependents involved. Emily's advocacy emphasized prevention, swift response, and follow-up support, highlighting the need for comprehensive systems that could address the complexities of real-life crises. Her work influenced policy at local levels, reinforcing the idea that community protection required intentional design, awareness, and accountability. In her household, Emily maintained practices that balanced safety, growth, and freedom. Lily, now entering school age, experienced a home environment that prioritized learning, emotional intelligence, and structured routines. Emily encouraged curiosity, creativity, and problem-solving, ensuring that her daughter had opportunities to develop confidence alongside security. She modeled resilience, demonstrating how challenges could be approached strategically, how obstacles could be overcome, and how empowerment involved both foresight and adaptability. Emily's parenting was proactive, informed by her own journey, and designed to equip her daughter with the tools needed to navigate an increasingly complex world. Financial independence was another area where Emily exercised intentional planning. She had developed sustainable practices, including budgeting, investing, and emergency planning, that allowed her to maintain autonomy and flexibility. These practices not only ensured her family's stability but also provided a model for others she mentored, highlighting the connection between financial security and personal empowerment. Emily emphasized that managing resources wisely was a form of self-protection, reinforcing the broader principles of autonomy and foresight she instilled in her mentees and daughter alike. Emily's engagement extended to public education and speaking engagements. She shared her story in controlled, purposeful settings, emphasizing lessons learned, strategies for self-protection, and pathways to recovery. Her talks were both motivational and instructional, demonstrating how personal adversity could be transformed into systemic change and collective empowerment. Through these forums, Emily reached broad audiences, inspiring action, awareness, and advocacy. Her story became a catalyst for dialogue, education, and social accountability, illustrating the impact one individual could have when experience, courage, and strategic action converged. The long-term impact of Emily's work was evident in the community's evolving response to domestic violence and family safety. Programs she helped establish provided immediate resources, education, and advocacy for survivors. Schools implemented preventative curricula she consulted on, equipping students with knowledge and confidence. Local agencies adopted trauma-informed practices based on her recommendations, enhancing the effectiveness and responsiveness of support systems. Emily's influence had created structures that extended beyond her immediate reach, ensuring that future generations would benefit from a safer, more informed, and more empowered society. Emily also focused on cultivating resilience and agency within her own family. She continued to nurture Lily's growth, emphasizing the value of autonomy, preparation, and self-expression. By modeling proactive problem-solving, effective communication, and emotional intelligence, Emily provided her daughter with a blueprint for navigating life confidently and safely. Emily reinforced that resilience was not merely a reaction to past trauma but a cultivated skill, supported by knowledge, planning, and strategic decision-making. These lessons were imparted daily through observation, interaction, and guided learning, forming the foundation for Lily's own sense of empowerment. Emily's mentorship network expanded over the years, connecting survivors, young professionals, and community leaders. She facilitated workshops, seminars, and peer-to-peer programs that emphasized skill building, confidence development, and long-term planning. By creating these networks, Emily ensured that knowledge, experience, and empowerment were shared widely, building a culture of resilience and support that extended far beyond her immediate sphere. Participants in these programs benefited from both her expertise and the collective wisdom of the community she fostered, reinforcing the importance of proactive, informed action in achieving lasting change. Emily also engaged in strategic advocacy at the policy level, working with lawmakers and social service agencies to improve protections for vulnerable populations. She emphasized accountability, transparency, and the need for systems that could respond to crises quickly and effectively. By combining grassroots experience with formal policy influence, Emily bridged gaps between lived realities and institutional structures. Her efforts contributed to tangible improvements, such as expedited response protocols, educational initiatives, and support programs for survivors and their families. As the years continued, Emily's life reflected a balance of empowerment, proactive leadership, and personal fulfillment. Her household remained a place of learning, care, and structured growth. Her mentorship and advocacy created ripple effects across the community, inspiring others to reclaim autonomy, establish safety measures, and engage in civic-minded leadership. Emily's personal trajectory from survivor to leader, mentor, and educator demonstrated that adversity could be transformed into a force for widespread impact, and that deliberate, intentional action could create enduring change. Emily's legacy was not limited to immediate outcomes, but extended into a generational influence. Lily, observing her mother's example, internalized lessons of resilience, proactive thinking, and empathy. Emily's life offered proof that strength, planning, and empowerment could coexist with love, care, and personal fulfillment. The structures, practices, and networks she had created ensured that both her daughter and the wider community would continue to benefit from the insights gained through her experiences. Emily's story became a blueprint for how individuals could transform trauma into purposeful action, shaping environments and communities that prioritized safety, agency, and resilience for generations to come. By cultivating safety, empowerment, and community influence, Emily Johnson demonstrated that personal recovery could evolve into transformative societal impact. Her life became a model of how trauma, when met with deliberate action, education, and advocacy, could be leveraged to protect, empower, and inspire others. The practices, programs, and mentorship she developed ensured that knowledge, resilience, and strategic foresight would be passed forward, creating enduring systems of support and empowerment for those who followed. Emily's vision extended far beyond herself, embodying a legacy of proactive leadership, empowerment, and generational impact that would continue to shape her community and family for years to come. Years into her new life, Emily Johnson had achieved a level of personal fulfillment that she once thought impossible. The trauma and danger that had once dominated her existence were now transformed into a foundation for empowerment, insight, and purposeful action. She approached each day with intention, balancing the responsibilities of motherhood with professional engagement, advocacy, and personal growth. Her daughter Lily thrived in a household that emphasized security, consistency, and creativity, reflecting the deliberate structures Emily had put in place. Every aspect of their home, from morning routines to evening reflections, reinforced safety and stability while encouraging curiosity and emotional development. Emily recognized that these practices were not simply habits, but tools for nurturing resilience, independence, and self-confidence in both herself and her child. Emily's professional and community endeavors expanded over time, allowing her to extend her influence beyond the immediate circle of her family. She became a respected voice in initiatives addressing domestic violence, trauma recovery, and community empowerment. Her involvement included collaboration with nonprofit organizations, school programs, and local government agencies, where she shared strategies for safety, emotional resilience, and proactive planning. Emily's insights, drawn from first-hand experience, were invaluable in shaping programs that were practical, effective, and trauma-informed. She taught others how to recognize early warning signs of abuse, navigate complex interpersonal dynamics, and implement protective measures in daily life. Through her work, Emily turned her personal history into a tool for collective empowerment, demonstrating that survival could evolve into meaningful societal impact. Mentorship became a defining component of Emily's long-term influence. She guided survivors of domestic violence, young women entering professional life, and mothers navigating recovery after trauma. Each mentoring relationship was individualized, emphasizing practical skills, emotional resilience, and empowerment strategies. Emily encouraged mentees to reclaim autonomy, set boundaries, and build confidence in decision-making. She also emphasized the importance of cultivating supportive networks, highlighting how relationships grounded in trust and respect could amplify resilience and provide long-term stability. Emily's mentorship created a ripple effect, with each individual she guided passing lessons forward, expanding the impact of her knowledge, experience, and insight. Emily's advocacy work also included public speaking, workshops, and educational programs designed to raise awareness and build practical skills in communities. She spoke candidly about her journey, focusing on lessons learned, strategies for recovery, and approaches to prevention. Her talks emphasized empowerment, self-protection, and the importance of seeking and accepting support. Emily's presentations were both motivational and instructive, providing audiences with tangible tools while inspiring confidence and proactive thinking. By sharing her story with intention, she helped others understand that trauma could be transformed into opportunity, and that survivors could reclaim agency in ways that were deliberate and strategic. Within her family, Emily maintained a strong emphasis on intentional parenting. Lily grew up in a home where security, routine, and emotional support were constants. Emily taught her daughter about boundaries, assertiveness, and problem-solving, modeling these behaviors consistently through her own actions. She also encouraged curiosity, critical thinking, and creativity, ensuring that Lily's development was holistic and balanced. Emily's approach to parenting emphasized resilience as a skill to be cultivated, highlighting that empowerment required both knowledge and practice. The lessons Emily imparted extended beyond immediate safety, providing Lily with a foundation for independent thought, self-confidence, and long-term well-being. Financial independence remained central to Emily's strategy for maintaining autonomy and security. She managed her finances strategically, ensuring stability through savings, investment planning, and resource allocation. These practices reinforced her ability to make decisions without undue reliance on external parties, minimizing potential vulnerabilities. Emily also integrated financial literacy into her mentorship and parenting approaches, teaching both mentees and her daughter the importance of proactive planning, resource management, and fiscal responsibility. By demonstrating that financial security is a form of empowerment, she underscored the interconnectedness of independence, resilience, and personal agency. Emily also cultivated holistic well-being, integrating physical health, mental clarity, and emotional resilience into her daily routines. Regular exercise, balanced nutrition, and restorative practices such as yoga and meditation supported her capacity to handle challenges while modeling healthy behaviors for her daughter. Emily recognized that sustaining resilience required attention to multiple dimensions of life, and she intentionally fostered habits that promoted strength, focus, and balance. These practices reinforced her sense of control and capacity for decision-making, allowing her to respond to unforeseen circumstances with clarity and confidence. Her advocacy work extended into policy and systemic improvement. Emily collaborated with local government and social service agencies to refine protocols for responding to domestic violence and trauma cases. Her perspective ensured that systems were responsive, trauma-informed, and protective of vulnerable individuals, including children. By bridging lived experience with professional insight, Emily contributed to initiatives that enhanced community safety, increased awareness, and promoted proactive intervention strategies. Her work influenced policy and program development, ensuring that lessons learned from her personal journey had a lasting impact on the structures designed to protect others. Emily also dedicated herself to building a lasting legacy. She documented her experiences, developed educational resources, and created programs that emphasized resilience, self-protection, and empowerment. Her goal was to ensure that her knowledge could be accessed by future generations, providing guidance for those navigating trauma, adversity, or instability. By transforming personal experience into structured learning and mentorship, Emily established a foundation that could continue to influence individuals and communities long after the immediate crisis had passed. Her efforts demonstrated that adversity, when met with deliberate action and strategic planning, could be converted into lasting positive impact. Over time, Emily reflected on her journey, recognizing the magnitude of her transformation. From a woman facing imminent danger to a mother, advocate, and community leader, she had forged a path defined by empowerment, intentionality, and proactive engagement. Her experiences had taught her the importance of foresight, resilience, and the cultivation of supportive networks. Emily understood that true empowerment required attention to multiple dimensions of life: physical safety, emotional stability, financial independence, and community engagement, and she had deliberately integrated these elements into her personal and professional framework. As Lily grew older, Emily's teachings became increasingly evident in her daughter's confidence, curiosity, and assertiveness. Lily approached challenges with creativity and discernment, demonstrating the lessons Emily had imparted about personal agency, safety, and resilience. Emily saw in her daughter the embodiment of the principles she had worked so hard to instill, a testament to the long-term influence of intentional parenting and proactive modeling. Emily's legacy was thus both immediate and generational, reflecting the transformation of past trauma into tools for empowerment, education, and leadership. Emily's long-term societal impact was equally significant. Programs she had helped establish continued to operate effectively, supporting survivors, promoting awareness, and creating safer communities. Her mentorship network remained active, producing empowered individuals capable of advocating for themselves and others. Emily's public speaking and educational initiatives continued to inspire and instruct, ensuring that her experiences could guide decisions, influence policies, and shape community norms for years to come. Her work exemplified how individual resilience could be leveraged into collective benefit, creating systems that reinforced safety, autonomy, and empowerment across multiple layers of society. Ultimately, Emily's journey illustrated that survival, recovery, and growth were interconnected processes. Her life demonstrated that trauma, while deeply impactful, could be transformed into opportunity, influence, and long-term empowerment. Through deliberate action, structured support, and the cultivation of resilience, Emily created a life defined not by fear or past experiences, but by agency, purpose, and proactive engagement. Her legacy, encompassing family, community, and societal influence, reflected the full potential of transforming adversity into lasting positive impact, ensuring that her experiences would continue to guide, protect, and empower others for generations to come. Years after the initial trauma that had disrupted her life, Emily Johnson had transformed not only her own circumstances, but also the lives of those around her. Her experiences became the catalyst for an enduring influence that reached far beyond her family. Emily understood that true empowerment was about creating structures, systems, and relationships that reinforced resilience, agency, and proactive safety. She had cultivated a life where intentionality, planning, and education intersected to create long-term impact. And she committed herself to ensuring that others could benefit from the lessons she had learned. Emily's mentorship network had grown considerably over the years, connecting survivors of domestic violence, young mothers, and individuals seeking guidance in navigating personal and professional challenges. Each mentorship relationship was structured to provide practical skills, emotional support, and strategic advice. Emily emphasized the importance of self-protection, boundary setting, and proactive decision-making, while also fostering a sense of confidence and autonomy. Her mentees were encouraged to develop critical thinking, recognize patterns of risk, and cultivate supportive relationships in their own lives. Through these interactions, Emily's influence expanded exponentially, as those she guided carried her lessons forward into their own communities, creating a ripple effect of empowerment and resilience. Emily also prioritized community engagement, working with nonprofit organizations, local governments, and educational institutions to develop initiatives focused on safety, advocacy, and trauma-informed practices. She collaborated with social workers and law enforcement to refine response protocols for domestic violence and high-risk family situations. Her contributions ensured that policies were both practical and sensitive to the lived realities of survivors, emphasizing rapid intervention, support, and accountability. Emily's perspective, rooted in personal experience, highlighted nuances that might otherwise be overlooked, ensuring that programs were truly effective in protecting vulnerable individuals. Education became another cornerstone of Emily's influence. She designed workshops and training programs that focused on resilience, empowerment, and practical strategies for self-protection. These programs were tailored to different audiences, including teenagers, young adults, and parents, ensuring that the content was relevant and actionable. Emily incorporated role-playing scenarios, discussion groups, and skill-building exercises to enhance understanding and engagement. Her aim was not merely to inform, but to equip participants with tools that could be implemented immediately in their daily lives. The success of these programs reinforced Emily's belief that knowledge and preparation were essential components of long-term safety and empowerment. Within her own family, Emily continued to model resilience and intentional living. Her daughter, Lily, benefited from a home environment that emphasized structure, safety, and emotional intelligence. Emily intentionally created routines that balanced education, play, and reflection, reinforcing the lessons she imparted about personal responsibility, awareness, and resilience. She encouraged Lily to engage in decision-making processes appropriate for her age, fostering independence and critical thinking. Through daily interactions, shared experiences, and guided learning, Emily instilled in her daughter the values of self-confidence, empathy, and proactive problem-solving. Financial empowerment was another area where Emily demonstrated leadership. She taught mentees, colleagues, and family members about budgeting, saving, and resource management, emphasizing that financial literacy was an essential component of autonomy and long-term security. Emily reinforced that the ability to make decisions without reliance on others was a crucial part of personal empowerment. By integrating financial education into her mentorship programs and family teachings, she ensured that those she influenced could approach life with confidence, prepared to navigate challenges and seize opportunities. Emily's advocacy extended to public awareness initiatives. She worked with media outlets, community centers, and educational organizations to disseminate information about recognizing signs of abuse, establishing boundaries, and seeking support. She highlighted the importance of systemic change, encouraging communities to create environments that prioritized safety, accountability, and support for survivors. Her outreach campaigns were intentional, designed to maximize engagement, education, and actionable outcomes. Through these efforts, Emily reached a broad audience, inspiring proactive approaches to personal safety and community responsibility. Emily also emphasized the importance of mental and emotional resilience. She taught strategies for managing stress, processing trauma, and maintaining focus in challenging situations. Her workshops included mindfulness exercises, journaling techniques, and reflective discussions that helped participants develop coping mechanisms. Emily emphasized that resilience was a skill that could be cultivated through practice, awareness, and intentional reflection. By providing both theoretical and practical frameworks, she equipped others to navigate adversity with confidence and stability. Her long-term vision included cultivating future leaders who could continue the work she had begun. Emily encouraged mentees to take on leadership roles within their communities, schools, and professional networks. She provided guidance on effective communication, conflict resolution, and advocacy, ensuring that they had the skills necessary to influence others positively. Emily's focus on mentorship created a sustainable model where empowered individuals could, in turn, empower others, creating a network of resilience that extended well beyond her immediate reach. Emily also nurtured collaboration between survivors, educators, and community leaders. She facilitated discussions that brought diverse perspectives together, allowing for the exchange of ideas, strategies, and best practices. These collaborations produced innovative programs, enhanced response protocols, and strengthened community networks. Emily's ability to bridge personal experience with systemic understanding allowed her to influence policies and practices that had tangible, long-term benefits for vulnerable populations. In her personal life, Emily maintained habits that reinforced her own resilience and well-being. She prioritized physical health, mental clarity, and emotional balance, integrating regular exercise, meditation, and structured reflection into her routine. By modeling these practices, she demonstrated to her mentees and her daughter the importance of holistic well-being as a foundation for empowerment. Emily recognized that sustaining long-term influence required her to remain strong, focused, and proactive, ensuring that she could continue to guide, mentor, and lead effectively. Emily's story became a source of inspiration, illustrating how personal adversity could be transformed into enduring impact. She demonstrated that deliberate action, mentorship, and advocacy could create systems that protected and empowered others. Her life was a testament to the power of intentionality, foresight, and the cultivation of supportive networks. Through her ongoing efforts, Emily ensured that the lessons she had learned about resilience, safety, and empowerment would be preserved, expanded, and applied across generations. The mentorship networks she established continued to thrive, providing guidance, support, and education to those navigating challenges similar to those Emily had faced. By creating structured pathways for knowledge sharing, she ensured that her experiences became actionable lessons for others. These networks reinforced the principles of accountability, preparedness, and community support, allowing survivors to transition from recovery to proactive empowerment. Emily's influence extended into schools, professional environments, and community organizations, leaving a lasting imprint on how individuals and systems approached resilience and safety. Ultimately, Emily's long-term impact reflected the integration of personal growth, mentorship, advocacy, and strategic leadership. She had transformed trauma into a platform for teaching, guiding, and influencing others, ensuring that her experiences would continue to serve as a blueprint for resilience and empowerment. Her life demonstrated that individual actions, when grounded in intentionality, knowledge, and courage, could catalyze systemic change, create networks of support, and inspire generations to embrace autonomy, safety, and confidence. Emily Johnson's legacy was thus both personal and societal, illustrating how one individual's journey could shape the lives of countless others, cultivating a culture of resilience, preparedness, and empowerment that would endure across time. As Emily Johnson looked back on the trajectory of her life, she realized that every hardship, every moment of fear, and every challenge had laid the foundation for something far greater than she had ever anticipated. The trauma she endured had been devastating, yet it became the catalyst for a life defined by intentionality, empowerment, and advocacy. Emily had moved beyond mere survival. She was now actively shaping the lives of others, transforming personal adversity into opportunities for systemic change. Her vision extended well beyond herself and her daughter, Lily, encompassing a broader commitment to her community, to survivors, and to future generations who could benefit from the lessons she had learned. Emily's focus on long-term influence was multifaceted. She had established a mentorship network that connected survivors of domestic violence, young women entering adulthood, and mothers navigating recovery. Each mentoring relationship was structured with purpose, combining practical guidance, emotional support, and strategic life skills. Emily emphasized autonomy, encouraging mentees to set boundaries, develop self-confidence, and cultivate resilience. She provided tools to recognize warning signs of abuse, navigate interpersonal relationships safely, and make decisions that prioritize their well-being. Through this network, Emily ensured that her knowledge and experiences extended far beyond her immediate circle, creating a ripple effect of empowerment that reached multiple communities. In addition to one-on-one mentorship, Emily expanded her influence through community-based initiatives. She collaborated with schools, nonprofit organizations, and local governments to design programs that educated students, parents, and community leaders about domestic violence, personal safety, and trauma-informed practices. Emily worked to ensure that these programs were not just theoretical but practical, teaching actionable strategies for identifying risks, creating protective measures, and responding effectively in high-stakes situations. Her involvement ensured that local systems were both responsive and preventative, reducing the likelihood that individuals would experience the trauma she had endured. Emily also emphasized public advocacy as a critical component of her long-term vision. She gave talks, workshops, and seminars that focused on practical empowerment, emotional resilience, and proactive planning. These presentations were carefully designed to be instructive and motivational, illustrating how adversity could be converted into agency. Emily's message was consistent. While one cannot always control external circumstances, one can prepare, plan, and develop internal strength to navigate challenges with confidence. Through these public engagements, she reached thousands of individuals, reinforcing the importance of awareness, preparation, and self-advocacy. Financial empowerment was another pillar of Emily's vision. She actively taught mentees, peers, and community members about budgeting, resource management, and strategic planning. She emphasized that financial autonomy was inseparable from personal safety and long-term resilience. Emily demonstrated through both teaching and example that maintaining control over one's resources allowed individuals to make decisions without fear of coercion or dependency. By integrating financial literacy into her mentorship and advocacy, she created a framework for long-term empowerment that extended beyond immediate physical or emotional safety. Within her household, Emily continued to cultivate an environment that nurtured resilience, intelligence, and independence. Lily, now growing into a confident and observant young girl, benefited from structured routines, guidance, and lessons in assertiveness and self-protection. Emily intentionally integrated teaching moments into daily life, reinforcing decision-making skills, critical thinking, and emotional regulation. She also encouraged creativity, exploration, and problem-solving, ensuring that Lily could develop both confidence and curiosity. Emily's parenting was proactive and strategic, reflecting her understanding that early exposure to empowerment principles would have a lasting impact across her daughter's life. Emily's professional engagements also aligned with her vision. She collaborated with policymakers, healthcare providers, and community organizations to ensure that systems supporting survivors of violence were comprehensive, responsive, and evidence-based. She advised on protocols for intervention, prevention, and follow-up support, emphasizing trauma-informed practices and survivor-centered approaches. Emily's insights, grounded in first-hand experience, helped shape procedures that were practical, humane, and effective. By influencing policy and program development, she ensured that her legacy would extend beyond her immediate actions to create systemic improvements that benefited countless individuals. Education and knowledge sharing became central to Emily's approach. She authored guides, resources, and articles aimed at both survivors and those who supported them. Her writing focused on actionable strategies for empowerment, recognizing danger, and building resilience. Emily's narratives were instructive rather than sensationalized, designed to educate while instilling confidence and agency. Through her written work, she reached individuals who might not have access to her workshops or mentorship, expanding the scope of her impact to a national or even global audience. Emily also cultivated collaborations that reinforced her vision of multi-generational empowerment. She brought together educators, survivors, social workers, and community leaders to create networks of shared knowledge and support. These collaborative networks allowed for the exchange of best practices, coordinated intervention strategies, and the development of sustainable mentorship programs. Emily recognized that systemic change required collective effort, and by leveraging her leadership and experience, she ensured that her vision was embedded into structures that could persist beyond her direct involvement. Her commitment to long-term planning included preparing Lily to carry forward the principles of resilience, self-reliance, and empowerment. Emily emphasized modeling behaviors, guiding decision-making, and fostering emotional intelligence, ensuring that her daughter would inherit not just safety but agency. By intentionally nurturing these traits, Emily extended her influence into the next generation, preparing Lily to navigate challenges independently and to contribute positively to her community. The home became a microcosm of Emily's larger vision, a space where empowerment, preparation, and thoughtful action were woven into daily life, shaping character and future leadership. Emily's community initiatives also addressed prevention at a systemic level. She advocated for educational curricula that taught young people about personal safety, boundary setting, and emotional awareness. She collaborated with local media campaigns to increase public understanding of domestic violence, emphasizing collective responsibility and community engagement. Emily's work highlighted that resilience is cultivated not only through individual action, but also through supportive environments, policies, and cultural awareness. Her advocacy underscored the interconnectedness of personal empowerment and societal change. The mentorship networks Emily established continued to expand, connecting survivors across regions, providing ongoing guidance, and fostering peer-to-peer support. She encouraged mentees to take leadership roles within these networks, multiplying the reach and impact of the programs. Each new participant became both a recipient and a contributor, creating a dynamic system where knowledge, skills, and empowerment flowed in multiple directions. Emily's vision ensured that survivors could move from recovery to leadership, perpetuating cycles of resilience and advocacy. Ultimately, Emily's long-term vision was one of enduring influence, combining family leadership, community engagement, mentorship, education, and systemic advocacy. She demonstrated that the challenges she had faced could be transformed into lessons, tools, and strategies that empowered others and created lasting change. Her life became a blueprint for resilience and intentional living, showing that survival could evolve into leadership, empowerment, and intergenerational impact. Emily's story illustrated how one individual's journey, when approached with foresight, courage, and deliberate action, could shape the lives of countless others, leaving a legacy that extended far beyond her own experiences. Through these efforts, Emily ensured that her influence would persist across time. The programs, mentorships, and systemic initiatives she helped establish continued to operate and grow, reaching new participants and adapting to changing circumstances. Her daughter, her mentees, and the broader community benefited from structures designed for sustainability, education, and empowerment. Emily's life became a testament to the principle that adversity, when met with intentional action and thoughtful leadership, could be transformed into a lasting legacy of resilience, safety, and agency. Decades after the pivotal events that had once threatened her life and her unborn child, Emily Johnson had built a life that exemplified resilience, leadership, and the power of transformation. Every aspect of her existence was intentionally designed to ensure the lessons she had learned through trauma could ripple outward, influencing not only her immediate family but her community and generations beyond. Her home, once a place of vulnerability, had evolved into a sanctuary of security, learning, and empowerment. Emily had created a framework in which personal growth, protection, and purposeful living coexisted seamlessly, offering a model for others to emulate. Emily's vision extended far beyond her own survival. She recognized that her experience could provide practical and emotional guidance for countless others navigating adversity. Over the years, she cultivated a network of mentorship and advocacy that connected survivors of domestic violence, young women seeking independence, and families facing high-risk situations. Each connection was carefully nurtured, combining practical advice with emotional support and empowerment strategies. Emily encouraged mentees to assert boundaries, develop self-confidence, and take deliberate action to secure their well-being. By creating this network, she ensured that her influence would extend far beyond her personal sphere, fostering a culture of resilience and proactive engagement. Community engagement became a central pillar of Emily's long-term strategy. She collaborated with schools, nonprofits, healthcare providers, and local government agencies to implement educational programs and intervention protocols that addressed domestic violence and trauma-informed care. Emily's perspective, informed by first-hand experience, was instrumental in shaping initiatives that were both effective and sensitive to the complex realities survivors faced. She emphasized practical skills such as recognizing warning signs, implementing safety measures, and navigating emergency situations while also fostering emotional resilience and long-term empowerment. These programs created a systematic approach to prevention and protection, ensuring that communities were equipped to respond swiftly and effectively to threats. In addition to structured programs, Emily invested heavily in public education and advocacy. She conducted workshops, seminars, and speaking engagements designed to raise awareness, provide practical strategies, and inspire confidence. Her presentations were grounded in her own experiences, illustrating how trauma could be transformed into action, resilience, and empowerment. Emily emphasized that while one cannot always control external events, one can cultivate knowledge, foresight, and internal strength to navigate challenges successfully. These engagements expanded her reach, touching the lives of thousands and demonstrating that personal adversity could be harnessed for collective benefit. Financial empowerment was another critical component of Emily's long-term vision. She taught the importance of budgeting, resource management, and strategic planning, highlighting the role of financial independence in ensuring autonomy and safety. By integrating these lessons into her mentorship programs and family teachings, Emily provided practical tools that allowed individuals to make decisions with confidence and reduce vulnerability. She emphasized that financial literacy was a cornerstone of long-term empowerment, reinforcing the idea that control over resources was inseparable from personal and familial security. Emily also prioritized mental, emotional, and physical resilience. She maintained daily practices that supported well-being, including structured exercise, mindfulness, and reflective journaling. These habits enabled her to remain strong, focused, and prepared to address challenges effectively. She modeled these behaviors for Lily and her mentees, demonstrating that resilience required attention to multiple dimensions of life, and that intentional self-care was a critical aspect of empowerment. By cultivating her own well-being, Emily ensured that she could continue to lead, mentor, and influence others over the long term. Her household became a microcosm of her broader vision. Lily thrived in a home that balanced security with opportunity, structure with exploration, and guidance with independence. Emily intentionally designed daily routines and interactions to foster problem-solving, emotional regulation, and confidence. She encouraged curiosity, critical thinking, and creativity, ensuring that her daughter could navigate challenges effectively and develop a strong sense of self. Emily's approach to parenting emphasized the integration of safety, knowledge, and agency, teaching her child that empowerment was both a personal and practical skill. Beyond her family, Emily's influence extended into organizational and policy work. She advised local government and social service organizations on best practices for responding to domestic violence and trauma, integrating trauma-informed care with evidence-based strategies. Her insights shaped policies, protocols, and programs, ensuring that interventions were both compassionate and effective. Emily's work in these areas reinforced the importance of systemic change in protecting vulnerable populations and highlighted the necessity of integrating survivor perspectives into program design and evaluation. Mentorship and network building remained central to Emily's long-term impact. She fostered connections between survivors, community leaders, and young professionals, creating a collaborative environment where knowledge and resources could be shared. These networks enabled survivors to move from recovery to leadership, perpetuating cycles of empowerment and resilience. Emily emphasized the importance of peer-to-peer learning, accountability, and mutual support, ensuring that empowerment was reinforced collectively. Her efforts created sustainable systems that could continue to influence lives long after her direct involvement, securing a lasting legacy. Education and storytelling were key tools Emily employed to expand her reach. She authored guides, articles, and curricula designed to educate, inspire, and empower. Her writing highlighted practical strategies for safety, resilience, and agency, drawing on her own experiences to provide relatable and actionable insights. Through her publications, she reached individuals who might not have access to her workshops or mentorship programs, ensuring that her lessons were widely available and impactful. Emily's narratives emphasized empowerment through deliberate action, demonstrating that adversity could be converted into opportunity and purpose. Emily also fostered a culture of multi-generational empowerment. She intentionally modeled resilience, problem-solving, and self-advocacy for Lily, ensuring that these principles would be carried forward. She incorporated mentoring and educational practices that emphasized leadership, critical thinking, and social responsibility, preparing her daughter and mentees to influence their own communities. Emily recognized that the ultimate measure of empowerment was not only personal success, but also the ability to cultivate resilience and agency in others, creating a legacy that transcended immediate circumstances. Her efforts extended to systemic prevention. Emily worked with schools, media organizations, and community campaigns to increase awareness of domestic violence, personal safety, and empowerment strategies. She emphasized collective responsibility, encouraging communities to recognize signs of risk, intervene when necessary, and create environments that supported safety and accountability. Through these efforts, Emily demonstrated that resilience and empowerment were not solely individual achievements, but were reinforced by supportive networks, informed policies, and cultural awareness. Ultimately, Emily Johnson's life became a model for transforming trauma into enduring influence. Her personal journey from vulnerability to empowerment served as a blueprint for others, illustrating how deliberate action, mentorship, and advocacy could create sustainable systems of protection and opportunity. She showed that survival could evolve into leadership, resilience, and multi-generational impact, and that individual experiences could catalyze meaningful societal change. Through her mentorship networks, advocacy, education, and family leadership, Emily created a lasting legacy that would continue to inspire and empower others for decades to come. By cultivating resilience, leadership, and proactive empowerment, Emily ensured that her life's lessons would persist across generations. Her daughter, mentees, and community members all benefited from structures, guidance, and mentorship designed to reinforce safety, autonomy, and confidence. Emily's story exemplified the potential for one person's experience, when combined with deliberate action and visionary leadership, to generate widespread, enduring change. Her life became a testament to the power of intentionality, foresight, and resilience, illustrating that the lessons learned through adversity could be transformed into tools for empowerment, education, and societal impact. Years after the harrowing events that once defined the most vulnerable chapter of her life, Emily Johnson stood as a symbol of resilience, empowerment, and intentional living. Her journey from a pregnant woman facing imminent danger to a community leader, mentor, An advocate had transformed not only her own life, but the lives of countless others. Each challenge she had faced, each moment of fear, and each decision to act with courage had contributed to a framework of experience that she now used to guide, protect, and empower others. Emily understood that survival was not merely a personal milestone, it was a foundation upon which a life of purposeful influence could be built. In the privacy of her home, Emily reflected on how far she had come. The apartment she shared with her daughter, Lily, was not just a living space but a living testament to her journey. Every detail from the arrangement of furniture to the routines she had carefully developed served a purpose. The home was a sanctuary, meticulously designed to balance safety, education, and emotional nourishment. Each morning began with intentional practices, shared breakfasts, time for reflection, and planning for the day's activities. Emily understood that stability and small daily routines reinforced long-term resilience, providing a foundation for her daughter to thrive. Emily's role as a mentor continued to grow. Over the years, she had developed a vast network of survivors, young mothers, and young professionals seeking guidance. Each mentorship was intentionally structured to provide practical tools, emotional support, and strategic advice. She emphasized the importance of recognizing warning signs, establishing boundaries, and cultivating both internal and external sources of empowerment. Emily taught that personal agency was a skill that could be cultivated through knowledge, planning, and deliberate action. Her mentees, in turn, were encouraged to pass these lessons on, creating a self-sustaining network of empowerment and resilience that extended far beyond her direct influence. In her community, Emily became a key figure in educational and advocacy initiatives. She collaborated with schools, nonprofit organizations, and social service agencies to implement programs that taught practical safety skills, emotional intelligence, and trauma-informed approaches. She worked with educators to develop curricula that encouraged awareness of personal safety and respectful interpersonal relationships, equipping students with tools to navigate complex social environments. Emily also partnered with local law enforcement and healthcare professionals to refine intervention protocols, ensuring that responses to domestic violence were rapid, effective, and survivor-centered. Her influence was evident not just in her mentorship, but in the systems she helped improve. Financial literacy and independence were central themes in Emily's advocacy. She taught mentees and community members the importance of budgeting, saving, and strategic planning as tools for empowerment. Emily emphasized that financial autonomy was inseparable from personal security and long-term resilience. By demonstrating how careful management of resources could support independence, she provided practical skills that allowed others to make confident decisions, free from dependency or coercion. These teachings extended to her daughter, who grew up understanding the value of financial planning and strategic thinking as essential life skills. Emily also emphasized holistic well-being. Her daily routines incorporated physical exercise, mindfulness, and reflective practices that nurtured her body, mind, and spirit. She demonstrated that true resilience required attention to multiple dimensions of life: emotional regulation, mental clarity, physical health, and intentional decision-making. Emily modeled these practices for Lily and her mentees, reinforcing that self-care was not indulgence but a necessary foundation for long-term empowerment and leadership. By cultivating her own stability and strength, she ensured she could continue to guide, support, and influence others effectively. One of Emily's greatest accomplishments was creating systems for multi-generational empowerment. She intentionally modeled resilience, strategic thinking, and proactive problem-solving for Lily, embedding these principles into daily routines and interactions. Emily also taught the value of collaboration, empathy, and mentorship, ensuring that her daughter would carry forward not only the lessons of personal survival, but also the responsibility of empowering others. Through her guidance, Lily learned to navigate challenges with confidence and awareness, developing skills that would allow her to influence her community positively in the future. Emily's advocacy extended to public speaking, writing, and educational outreach. She shared her story with authenticity and intentionality, emphasizing actionable strategies for resilience, safety, and empowerment. Her publications included practical guides and reflective narratives designed to educate and inspire, reaching audiences who might not have access to mentorship or workshops. Emily's work bridged the gap between personal experience and systemic change, showing that trauma could be transformed into tools for education, leadership, and empowerment. The mentorship networks Emily developed continued to thrive, providing support, guidance, and skill-building opportunities for survivors and young leaders. She emphasized peer-to-peer learning, collaboration, and accountability, creating sustainable systems that reinforced empowerment over time. These networks not only helped individuals recover and build confidence, but also cultivated future mentors and advocates, multiplying the impact of Emily's initial work. Through these structures, she ensured that the lessons she had learned about resilience, foresight, and strategic action would continue to benefit her community for generations. Emily also focused on systemic change. She worked closely with policymakers, educators, and social service professionals to ensure that programs addressing domestic violence, trauma, and personal safety were informed by lived experience. Her insights improved intervention strategies, educational initiatives, and community support systems, making them more effective and responsive. Emily's work demonstrated that personal transformation could influence public systems, highlighting the power of individual experience when leveraged to create societal impact. Within her family, Emily emphasized values of resilience, autonomy, and thoughtful decision-making. Lily grew up observing her mother's strategies for problem-solving, emotional regulation, and intentional living. Emily fostered independence by allowing her daughter to make age-appropriate choices while guiding her through the reasoning and consequences of decisions. She emphasized the interconnectedness of personal responsibility, preparation, and community engagement, showing that empowerment was not only a personal journey but a shared societal responsibility. As Emily reflected on her life, she recognized the scope of her impact. From immediate family to community networks, from mentorship programs to systemic reforms, her actions had created a web of resilience, empowerment, and protection that spanned generations. She had transformed trauma into knowledge, fear into foresight, and adversity into a platform for leadership. Emily's story became a blueprint for how intentional action, courage, and deliberate planning could turn personal hardship into enduring societal contribution. Emily's ultimate legacy was the integration of personal recovery, family guidance, community leadership, and systemic influence. She demonstrated that survival was only the beginning of a transformative journey. By combining mentorship, advocacy, education, and strategic leadership, she created structures that reinforced safety, autonomy, and resilience. Her life illustrated the principle that personal experiences, when approached with intentionality, could have far-reaching effects, shaping the lives of others and cultivating a culture of empowerment and proactive agency. Looking ahead, Emily remained committed to her mission. She continued to mentor, educate, and advocate, ensuring that new generations of survivors and leaders could benefit from her experiences. Her home remained a sanctuary, her routines a model for balance and stability, and her influence a guiding force for her daughter and mentees. Emily Johnson's journey from vulnerability to empowerment, from fear to leadership, stood as a testament to the transformative power of resilience, intentionality, and enduring action. Her life was a living legacy, illustrating how trauma could be harnessed as a catalyst for lasting impact, creating a multi-generational culture of safety, autonomy, and empowerment. The story of Emily Johnson provides a profound array of lessons that resonate on both personal and societal levels, teaching the importance of resilience, proactive empowerment, and the transformative power of support networks. At its core, the narrative highlights how adversity, no matter how severe, can become a catalyst for personal growth and societal impact when met with courage, foresight, and deliberate action. One of the most immediate lessons is the critical importance of awareness and preparation. Emily's survival was not simply a matter of chance. It was the result of quick recognition of danger, decisive intervention by her father and medical staff, and the structured environment of the hospital. This underscores the principle that safeguarding oneself and loved ones often requires anticipating risks, understanding one's vulnerabilities, and mobilizing available resources promptly. It teaches that personal agency is not passive, it is cultivated through knowledge, vigilance, and strategic decision-making, reinforcing the idea that empowerment begins with proactive preparation and a clear understanding of the environment and relationships around us. Another essential lesson from Emily's story is the indispensable role of support networks in overcoming trauma and adversity. The combined presence of her father, medical professionals, and later mentors and community allies, exemplifies how a structured, reliable network can amplify individual resilience. Human connection, when coupled with accountability and decisiveness, can prevent further harm, create pathways for recovery, and serve as a protective mechanism against future threats. This illustrates that while individual courage is crucial, the collaboration of supportive individuals and systems is what transforms resilience from a solitary effort into a sustainable, scalable force. Emily's experience demonstrates that we must cultivate relationships based on trust, accountability, and mutual support, not only to protect ourselves, but also to foster environments where others can thrive safely. The story also emphasizes the long-term value of turning trauma into purpose. Emily's journey shows that surviving an adverse event is only the first step. True empowerment involves using experiences of hardship to educate, advocate, and guide others. Her efforts in mentorship, advocacy, and systemic reform exemplify how personal adversity can be leveraged to create lasting positive impact. By teaching others to recognize danger, assert boundaries, and cultivate resilience, Emily extends the lessons she learned into a legacy that reaches beyond herself and her immediate family. This highlights a vital lesson that personal suffering, when processed thoughtfully and intentionally, can be transformed into a tool for communal benefit. It teaches that healing is not merely about returning to a previous state of normalcy, but about creating frameworks, systems, and opportunities that prevent harm and empower others. Furthermore, the narrative underscores the intersection of empowerment with practical skills and structural preparation. Emily's commitment to financial independence, strategic planning, and proactive household organization demonstrates that resilience is multi-dimensional, encompassing emotional, physical, and logistical preparedness. Survival and long-term success are not abstract concepts. They require concrete actions, planning, and deliberate cultivation of self-sufficiency. This teaches that empowerment is holistic. It is the combination of emotional strength, practical skills, and foresight that allows individuals to navigate both immediate crises and future uncertainties. By emphasizing structured routines, financial literacy, and proactive safety measures, the story illustrates that intentionality in daily life contributes directly to long-term security and autonomy. Equally important is the intergenerational lesson embedded in Emily's story. Through her parenting and mentorship, Emily ensures that the principles of resilience, empowerment, and proactive action are transmitted to the next generation. Lily's upbringing demonstrates that lessons of personal agency, safety, and emotional intelligence are most effective when modeled consistently within the home and community. This highlights a broader societal lesson. Cultivating a culture of empowerment requires intentional teaching, role modeling, and the creation of environments where knowledge and resilience can be inherited and amplified. The story teaches that individual recovery is magnified exponentially when the lessons of empowerment are shared with others, ensuring that the impact of one person's courage and foresight resonates across generations. Finally, Emily's narrative imparts a lesson about the transformative power of deliberate action and moral courage. Confronting danger, asserting boundaries, and advocating for systemic change requires not only strength, but also clarity of purpose and commitment to ethical principles. Her journey demonstrates that courage is effective when it is combined with strategy, knowledge, and collaboration. It teaches that standing up for oneself or others is not merely a reactive impulse but a deliberate, calculated effort to protect life, dignity, and autonomy. Emily's life embodies the idea that individuals can effect lasting change when they channel adversity into structured, purposeful action, impacting not only their own trajectory but the well-being of the wider community. In conclusion, the story of Emily Johnson serves as a comprehensive lesson in resilience, proactive empowerment, and the long-term value of transforming adversity into opportunity. It emphasizes the necessity of preparation, the power of support networks, and the importance of practical, holistic skills for survival and growth. It illustrates how personal experiences, when harnessed thoughtfully, can extend influence across families, communities, and generations, creating enduring frameworks for safety, autonomy, and empowerment. Above all, Emily's journey teaches that true strength lies not only in surviving hardship, but in converting that survival into purpose, guidance, and systemic change that empowers others to thrive and fosters a culture of resilience that lasts far beyond individual experience. If you find this video helpful, don't forget to hit like, subscribe to the channel, and turn on the notification bell so you won't miss upcoming videos. If you have any suggestions or questions, feel free to leave a comment below. I'd really love to hear your feedback. Thank you for watching until the end.